barricades patrol the cover boundary. At last the time is come, this is take large man, the barricades patrol the cover boundary. At last the time is come, this is take large man, the barricades insurgency. At first they tried to silence us, but we would not be silenced. They threatened us with lies, so we threatened them with violence. Che Guevara, Sangakara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket. It's not about the winning, it's about how many rules you break. Even in cricket commentary, this is the best advice to take. Pick guerrilla cricket, it's the finest choice you'll ever make. There's so much more to cricket than rev counters and a slice of cake. But first they tried to sanitize us and clean up our act. But people like it filthy, and we know that for a fact. Fidel Castro, Lenny Pascoe, Carlos the Jackal, Umar Akmal, Mahatma Gandhi, Grant and Andy, Brendan Behan, Austin Ian, guerrilla cricket. Stick with us, cause you know we're not the kind of thing that you see on the TV and the radio. So vive la revolution. First they tried to buy us, but we would not be bought. Okay, we were, but then we ran away, and we will not be caught. Would not give up the ghost when they left us all for dead. They decapitated us, but we just grew another head. Chairman Mao, Jamie Howe, Ho Chi Minh, Asif Din, Václav Havel, Graham Saville, No Surrender, Percy Fender, Che Guevara, Sangakara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 3 of the first test between England and Pakistan. Hendo had frozen temporarily. Here he is.
Don't you love it? Don't you just love it when a cricket cliche does what it says on the tin? Indeed, I'm wondering, has there ever been a more crucial first hour than the one we are about to witness? Good morning, good afternoon, good dawn, good dusk, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Guerrilla Cricket. I'm Gorilla Hendo, Nigel Henderson, and yes, the perennial first test losers are up against the fire and brimstone of Pakistan's greenhorns. But Ollie Pope is there, looking good, and Jos Butler, well, to coin another cliche, we need to talk about Jos, and we've done a lot of that. That is a given. There's been talk on the WhatsApp group, impassioned talk on the WhatsApp group, which is the virtual equivalent of our green room, although perhaps not quite as good. Alongside me today, well, certainly for the first session this morning, I have the greatest friend of Percy the Peacock. It is indeed Nestle Boy.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody. And Knuckle Panda, you will have heard him. It sounded like we had a bit of problems with the jingles, but never mind. That will soon be forgotten as the day gets underway. What do we think? Ollie Pope was brilliant, but do remember when he was 91 not out overnight, he came in the next morning and he went pretty quickly. Can he reproduce the form of last night? He batted really well in really difficult circumstances. Jos Butler looked quite good as well. What do we put this down to?
Jos Butler has looked quite good all summer, actually, with the bat. He's looked more positive, and not in the way that positive is often used. to mean attacking, but he's looked more decisive in his footwork and in his stroke play, and his running between the wickets has been very good. Pope and Butler ran between the wickets very well in the third test against the West Indies and ran the West Indies ragged, and we saw how well Pakistan did with that yesterday, that partnership between Shan Masood and Shadab Khan after lunch. It's not as big a playing area as Southampton, but there are plenty of opportunities for singles, and I think if that will be the way that England will look to try and get into this first morning, this, as you say, crucial first hour, and then start to build a partnership again this morning against this fantastic Pakistan attack that has come together and were absolutely magnificent last night.
Yeah, how good were they, Nestle Boy? You were watching last night, no doubt, while feeding the peacock. That's not a euphemism, by the way. How did you view it?
Very impressive all round. We've seen varying types of Pakistan teams down the years coming to England. I think this one, I think is one of the, just based on what I saw yesterday, is very impressive.
Very impressive, very exciting, aren't they? Very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole host of stuff there to talk about with what they bring to the table. But I can see them skipping out England quite quickly.
Do you know, I can see that too, strangely enough, which worries me a little bit. A lot of the talk overnight was, I read the BBC report, and they were just saying that England, a day of woe for England. It certainly wasn't a day of woe for England. They were in a difficult position, but a day of woe. There was that terrible period after lunch yesterday, but apart from that, they were, and losing 3 quick wickets to 3 fantastic deliveries. But, I've been a lot more cross with England in the past than I was watching them last night.
But sometimes you just look at it. I mean, you look at what you've got to give praise to the opposition. You can't beat everybody all the time. And Masood played a perfect test innings. Yeah,
you're absolutely right.
Right, he was dropped by someone, or not stumped by someone. I don't know, somebody, I can't remember.
Somebody,
I mean, he was backed up by Barber. I mean, Shadab, what did he get? 40 odd?
45, yeah. 45. He batted really well, very positively.
The rest of them didn't really contribute much.
No, it was 2 big partnerships really between Shan and Barber, and then Shan and Shadab Khan. Yasir Shah stuck around for a little while, but anyway, we do have the batters out to the middle, and here they are. And
Pryor ain't no loss, 'cause we found someone Butler. Okay, he can't spell Joss, but he also can't spell Butler. Joss Butler, just because he is Joss Butler. 1 S and 2 T's, Joss Butler.
And they'll have the ball flung at them from a great height by...
It's always time for Shaheen Afridi.
No, not that other guy, Shaheen.
It's always time for Shaheen Afridi.
No, not that other guy, he used to mind the ball.
Shaheen Afridi, Shaheen Afridi.
End watch. He's at the Brian Statham end.
Coming in from the Brian Statham end, indeed, it's going to be Shaheen Afridi. Wow, he got the ball to move late last night. He got the ball to move late last night. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, he has the ball in his hand. He has placed it either side of the seam, or very close together actually on the seam, it has to be said, as we see a bit of a close-up. And he will be coming in left arm over the wicket to bowl to Pope. Now, the worrying thing about Pope is that he averages 46.92, and he's on 46 not out. Actually, though, to retain an average of 46, he's obviously got to get a few more than that. So the not out is having some effect at the moment on the averages. Are we finally going to be ready? No, we're not ready. Pope just scratches his mark again. Now he does. He settles down into his stance, and he waits for Shaheen Afridi to bowl the first ball of a crucial first hour. 2 slips in the gully. In he comes. Bowls to Pope down the leg side. Taken by Mohammed Rizwan, and there is no run. 92 for England. The GPL is open immediately, and £46 is everything. Everything is about 46 today. £46 is in the pot. You know how to do it. Surely you do by now. Go along to guerrillacricket.com/competitions. Estimate how many runs you think there will be in the day. Put a pound on every time you do it. You can have as many guesses as you want, and if you get it on the nose, you get what's in the pot. And if you add more to the pot, the bigger the pot becomes. It's quite simple. It's just maths. In comes Shaheen Afridi, bowls. Oh, now that came in and rose on him as he was looking to get forward, was forced onto the back foot, played it well in the end, adapted, and played it into the offside. There is no run. Have we been joined by anyone on that thing known as the what's it known as, the Twitter sphere?
Social media.
Is there fear on the Twitter sphere? Is there fear on the Twitter sphere?
No, not really. They want us to do today in the style of Kenneth Williams, but we're not going to do that.
No, we're not. That's all I can do for Kenneth Williams. Go, and that's it. Shaheen in, bowls full, punched up to mid-off as a ball that was exploring him outside the off stump was trying to seek a way through the gate, but Ollie Pope shut the gate in his face. The ball went up to mid-off.
But join us, our grits and grats, Josie Oak, Jay Grover, of course, says morning all, Farong, afternoon all, possibly the match-defining session beckons.
Oh, yes.
Oxymoronica, Hugh Taylor.
A friend of Dave's, I believe, a member of Palmer's Cricket Club. In comes Shaheen Afridi, bowls to Pope, and Pope is forward, looking for a quick single as he pushes that out towards Yasir Shah at extra cover. And there is no run. England trail by 234. They need another 35 to avoid the follow-on, but there's a lot of time left in this match. Oh, that was a no ball. So England should move on to 93 for 4, should they not?
Over the line! Huh? I'm sorry, Smokey. You were over the line. That's a foul.
That's at least Shaheen's third no ball.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it happens with a guy who's got such long legs when he puts in that little extra bit of effort in the delivery stride. Here he comes again into Pope, and Pope goes back looking for his first run of the morning, tucks it away to mid-wicket, and there is no run. England trail by 233. It's only 34 now to save the follow-on. Actually, if England didn't save the follow-on, this would be over today, wouldn't it?
Very probably, yeah.
Good lord.
Yeah, it's actually his second no ball, Shaheen Afridi. Mohammed Abbas bowled 2 yesterday. Not really sure what his excuse is. Michael Goff, the third umpire, has had a very, very close encounter with a head trimmer.
Yes, did he look like he had a very... that couldn't have been him. He looked like he had a beard. Has he got a beard? Didn't have a beard last week. In comes Shaheen Afridi, aiming this wider of the off stump, looking for it to swing back into Pope. It doesn't really do so, and he lets it go through to the keeper. 1 ball remaining of the first over.
Of course, Muttley's with us, and he's morning all, woof. We are doomed, love and sausages. And some bloke called Messy Jez, I don't know who he is. Evening all, are Julian and Sandy in the house yet?
Julian and Sandy?
It's more Kenneth Williams references.
Are they? Julian and Sandy, that's what I don't know. That's before my time, regards to Kenneth Williams. In comes Shaheen again, bowls to Pope, keeping bat and pad close together, always looking for a run, but he won't get one there as he pushes it up to mid-off. But a reasonably good start for England. They didn't lose a wicket, unlike Pakistan yesterday morning, and they are 93 for 4.
Leah, the Wicked Witch, says someone should really dub that Shaheen jingle over the disco scene from Miami Vice where the original plays. Would do it myself if my collector's box weren't already packed for the move. Mog says hello. Dave Wood says, come on, Afridi, we discussed this. At least 5 no balls before the 60th over.
On.
Jay Grover says, was I right in hearing the no ball calls are automated in this test?
Not automated, but the third umpire is doing it, isn't it? He's shouting into the standing umpire's ears, going, no ball! And making them jump, I imagine. Mohammed Abbas is going to open proceedings from the Jimmy Anderson end. And he's going to have the same regulation field, 2 slips gully, 3 on the offside, 2 on the onside, man down at long leg. And we'll jingle him up in a moment, because I think he's about to bowl his first ball, and we don't want to miss any of the action of this fascinating morning. He's in to Josh Butler, and Josh Butler survives the first ball as it passes harmlessly outside the off stump. This is Mohammed Abbas and his jingle.
I don't
short and sweet, I think you have to say, from Mohamed Abbas, and that's been mainly England's batsmen against him. He has the ball back in his hands, just looking at the wickets that he got yesterday. I mean, that ball that got simply moved a mile off the pitch. Almost went like a big off-break. Here he is again, bowls to Josh Butler, who covers up a ball that's probing middle and off. Full face the bat sees it run all the way up to mid-on. There is still no run from the bat so far this morning.
And then he beat Ben Stokes, who has the best defensive technique of anyone in the England team, with one that came in from round the wicket and then moved away.
Oh, it was an absolute beauty. I think I read what the actual movement statistics were. I think it came in by 0.8 degrees and went away by 1.2 degrees, something like that. Anyway, it was enough to get past the outside edge. Here is Mohamed Abbas into Josh Butler, and Josh Butler raises the bat. The ball dies on its way through to Mohamed Rizwan, who has to grasp it at the second attempt. And still we wait for Butler and Pope to get us up and running. Nervous, tricky time for England. Really do need this partnership to turn into something significant. It's 93 for 4. Add 2 wickets to the score, and it's looking horrible for England. But if they can put on another 50 or 60, it looks a little bit better. Mohamed Abbas at the end of his run in past umpire Illingworth. Bowls Butler forward, bat and pad immaculately alongside each other, and plays it to extra cover. There is no run. Nestlers.
On Crick Tracker, we have Quarry says, have a nice day. Mansur Malik says, weather updates. I don't think there's going to be any rain, is there? Is it just sunny all the way?
Hottest day of the year, isn't it? Hottest day of the year again, for the second time.
It's going to be hotter than the sun.
Hotter than the sun, indeed.
A little bit cloudy this morning, very sunny this afternoon.
Bass in bowls to Butler, who leaves a foolish delivery outside the off stump, and again scratches his mark to keep his head inside the bubble biosecure, or his very own. Who can tell? But yes, it's going to get a bit brighter. It's a little bit of dappled cloud above Old Trafford at the moment. Plenty of blue, and certainly down here in the south, it's gorgeous. Anyway.
Gorgeous day to be sitting indoors.
Yeah, well, we've said that a lot about when we've been doing guerrilla cricket. It's funny, cricket being in the summer. He's in again, bowls to Josh Butler, and that did seam back into the batsman, but he defended it well. It might have been a slightly slower ball as well. And that is the end of another over in which no runs came from the bats. So it's 93 for 4.
Babani Misra says, video not visible. Unfortunately, Babani, we don't have the rights to show the video. That's not in our financial scheme quite yet. Musvir Khan is watching from occupied Kashmir.
Oh, blimey. Okay.
I hope you're okay in Kashmir. Leah the Wicked Witch, what are Pakistan thinking with that sunscreen? This is Manchester.
Shaheen Afridi starts a new over, bowling to Pope. He's looking for swing from outside the off stump. It's a full delivery, but Pope leaves it and then rehearses the forward defensive a couple of times. Through to Rizwan it goes. There is no run. What else do I need to tell you? Hot Mic. Go and listen to us on Hot Mic, because if you do, we get $1 every time. And so if all 13,000 followers, 14,000 is it now? 15,000 maybe?
14,000.
Did that, we'd be $15,000 better off. You know it makes sense, because then we won't be asking you for money the whole time. This is something you can do that costs you nothing but gives us money. I'll tell you a bit more about it after this ball. Shaheen in, bowls to Pope. A little bit shorter delivery. Again, Pope just lifts his bat above his shoulders and lets it go through. Yes, Hot Mic. Go to Hot Mic. It's an app. You download it, and if you use the code when asked, GC Radio, we get $1. And what Hot Mic does for you is it aligns our commentary with your TV set, wherever you may be in the world. So that is worth its weight in gold, isn't it? So go to Hot Mic. Go to Hot Mic now! Now, I say, and help guerrilla cricket. 2 slips in the gully. In comes Shaheen Afridi, bowls to Pope. He sets off for a single. Gonna have to hurry, puts in the dive. The throw wasn't that far away. Wow, well, he was so keen to get off the mark this morning, was Pope, that he took a single that had risk written all over it. He wasn't very far back at mid-off there at all. A direct hit would, well, actually, possibly wouldn't have been out. Who was it fielding there? Was that Abid Ali? And he possibly isn't the greatest of fielders. I think we've seen him at short leg before, and mid-off may not be his specialist position. So Pope survived by the skin and a little bit more of his teeth.
I think it was a good full-length dive. The mucky Pope is back into operation already, and I think he probably would have made it. Good sharp single.
It's funny how cricket has changed, because you would never have dived in the old days. I mean, it would just seem completely uncool, to use the phraseology of the day. In comes Shaheen Afridi to Jos Butler, defends a straight one back to him on the front foot, and there is no run. It was kind of a little bit demeaning to feel that you got to a point where you had to dive in to save your own neck. But in professional cricket, things have changed, haven't they?
Well, it's not the sort of thing that an Englishman would do.
Well, absolutely not. I mean, one doesn't want to have to get up and brush oneself down. I mean, we've got butlers and things to do that. Not Jos Butlers, but butlers, nonetheless.
I can't have my manservant on the pitch to do that for me, then.
And exactly. I mean, it holds up play, doesn't it? You know, and cricket is always shooting itself in the foot, as Gary often moans.
Yeah.
So
play has been stopped due to a rinse cycle.
yes, indeed. That would be quite handy. Shaheen Afridi then, 1 for 14. Lovely action that he's got. He's in, he bowls, and this time he forces Butler onto the back foot. He just drops the ball down into the onside, and there is no run.
This is the sort of thing we like. Rob, on hot mic, Rob Harmon, I think it is. I can't excuse my eyesight. I need new glasses. Hello, I don't even have Sky to sync to, but signed up for you with GC Radio.
Top work, Rob.
What a top bloke.
You are absolutely wonderful.
I
mean,
sorry.
if you ever come to England, we will. I don't know what we'll do. We'll furnish you with goodies at Sydenham at some point, if we're ever allowed back there. Well, some people are. Some of us aren't. In comes Shaheen Afridi again. Bowls to Butler. Ooh, I don't know. He played that towards mid-wicket, and his bat, he just got his bat down, I think, in time. If that had hit him on the pad, there would have been some trouble and quite a noisy appeal. That's the end of the over. More tweets.
Ravi Nair. Hi guys, I swear I just heard Knackle say Close Encounters of the Third Mankind, which made me think of the famous Don't Look Backward square leg in anger. Is that what we're doing today to pass the time where England collapsed to 136 all out?
Well, it's possible. I think we probably could do that, yes.
Message just says Julian and Sandy were a big part of Round the Horn for many years. Played by Hugh Paddock and Kenneth Williams. There you go.
Hugh Paddock.
Yeah.
And what was he in? He was in something I really liked when I was a kid. I'll come back to that. Anyway, first ball of new over. Sorry to interrupt the tweets.
That's all right.
Mohammed Abbas into Pope, and Pope drives this into the mid-wicket area. It's spilled by the fielder there, and it allows them to come through for a single as the ball rebounds towards mid-on. Pope moves to 48, England to 95 for 4. More Nestlers.
Jay Grover says, I have no telly, but I'll measure me dar about Hot Mike next time I see him. He might do as long as he doesn't get wind of Not Fred's commentary. I think your dad would like Not Fred's commentary. There's nothing wrong with Not Fred's commentary.
Not Fred's commentary is absolutely excellent. It's he's just
first class.
That nobody likes him. Anyway, here comes Mohammed Abbas, bowls to Butler. He gets a little bit front onto that, but defends it with the full face of the bat very watchfully. Not Fred will be back this afternoon helping out. We ended up being quite short of people today at one point. Last night I suddenly remembered I had to do the rota timings for the day. I've just watched the second episode of Line of Duty first series, and I thought, oh my god, it's 11 o'clock, I've got to do the rotas. And then I suddenly realised we had very few commentators because various people have fallen out.
The sun's out,
over the last few days.
Year.
On the hottest day, that's what it is, isn't it? They're all going to Brighton. Mohammed Abbas into Butler. Butler leaves this one alone, no movement there. And that might be encouraging for England, that Mohammed Abbas is not finding the extravagant scene that he found last night.
It'll come in a minute. It's Mohammed Abbas.
What's that about Mohammed Abbas?
The movement will come in a minute. You don't have to wait too long with Mohammed Abbas.
The movement will come in a minute. That is the prediction of Knackle. Maybe he's just loosening our players up to think that, there's nothing happening out here. What's the problem? We'll put on 100 without any thought at all. And then suddenly one will come jagging back into the pads. In comes Mohamed Abbas. Is this the one? No, but it is the one that goes straight on as Josh Butler, I think, plays slightly inside the line, maybe playing that movement back. And it goes through to the keeper.
Alex Marmon has joined us on YouTube.
Ah, good. Hello.
Good morning, Gorillas.
Good morrow.
Good morning, Alex. I hope you're doing well.
Good morning. Where is it? Where is it? Good evening. And where in the world at this very moment is it good dawn and good dusk? I need to know. Help me out.
Australia. Good evening.
Australia. No, that's good evening. I mean, I'm looking for dawn and dusk though. Anyway, here comes Mohamed Abbas into his 9th over, 2 for 25. Bowls to Josh Butler. Josh Butler leaves a ball again that doesn't really seem to deviate. Being very watchful at the moment, and it's through to the keeper. The England are 95 for 4. Butler has 15. Pope has 48. Worryingly, Mohamed Abbas has best first-class figures of 8 for 46. Whisper it quietly. 5 wickets in an innings 34 times.
Ooh.
10 wickets in a match 10 times.
Stop it.
Extraordinary stuff from Mohamed Abbas.
Yeah, and that's partly on very unhelpful pitches in Pakistan.
Yeah, docile pitches, I was being told, in this particular most recent first-class season. Driven by Butler. Has he got a run? No, it's straight, and it's fielded by Shahan Afridi. Really well for a tall man getting down and then throwing at the non-striker's end. Pope had to return to his crease. That is the end of the over, and England are 95 for 4.
Mog says not Fred's problem is his personality. Everyone knows that. How you spend time with the man when you're in face to face.
Listen, if you didn't know about thing. If you didn't know about his views on various things, you would think he was the nicest man you'd ever met.
Steve Shipcott says, morning all. I too signed up to Hot Mic. I also don't have the sports programs on the telly books, but anything to help. Steve, you go on the honours board.
Yeah.
You should.
By the way,
should we have a hot people who tip us on Hot Mic? They should go on. They should have their own board, shouldn't they? Really?
Yeah, typing chat and messages so far.
Shaheen Afridi into Pope. He tries to drive but drags it. Was reaching for it a little bit outside off stump. Dragged it into the onside towards mid wicket. There is no run. I do love the bouffant hairstyle of Shaheen Afridi. Where does he get that from? It's a thing of beauty. Do you know he is the one of 7 brothers, and in fact the youngest of 7 brothers.
Wow.
One of whom, the eldest, did play a test for Pakistan, did he not? Someone will confirm that.
Look that up. I don't remember him.
I think in about 2004. I'm trying to remember the name. Obviously, Afridi was part of the name, but I can't remember. Was it Razi? Something like that. Oh, he's bowled him, has he? No, my word! He went back to one he probably should have been forward to, chopped it down, and somehow that bounced over the off stump. But the position Pope found himself in was one of those of despair almost. Maybe he kept a little bit low. It bounced right over the stumps. He's very lucky to get away with that. Although you have to say, when you get out to those, you feel that you're a little bit unlucky to get out to that. So it swings and roundabouts, really. But the closest thing we've had this morning, Shaheen continues. Have all the Afridis got that bouffant hairstyle? That's what we need to know. In he comes again, bowls to Pope. He plays this nicely off his legs. He's going to get 1. He's going to get 2. As Abid Ali chases it, he might get 3. No, he'll settle for the 2. That is 50 for Ollie Pope. Another 50 in this fledgling career. His 5th in 11 matches to go with the 100 that he has as well. He gets a handshake, gloved up handshake, I should say, from Josh Butler. 81 balls, 6-4, strike rate of 61.7, and he's been out there exactly 2 hours, spread over an evening and a ball.
Let's mark the milestone.
50 runs, your 50 runs. Well done, well done, well done, well done.
Full of ball, and again he gets an inside edge as he tries to drive. Maybe just not moving that front foot quite enough at the moment, and drags it down a little bit. That's a little bit of a worry. He's just got to concentrate and focus there. I do remember, I mean, I hadn't seen a huge amount of Ollie Pope before he got into the team. That is a no ball, by the way, so it wouldn't have mattered. But I do remember a Surrey fan tweeting us to say he really does like to go after wide balls. Might have even actually been Jason G. Hiscock who said that, and he would have seen quite a bit of them at the Oval. So he doesn't let opportunities to score go begging. That is the point, I think. But of course, that sometimes can bring about your downfall. 98 for 4, Pope 50, Butler 15. Butler yet to score this morning. Shaheen Afridi in again to Pope. Pope goes back, looking to turn this into the onside. He wants to get it square, and then that would have brought him a single, but it goes straight to mid-wicket, and there is no run.
Richard Davidson is with us on Hot Mic, says early evening here in Hong Kong, chaps. And Farong has sent our Facebook page details to a few cricket fan pages in Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, and of course Bangladesh. He's getting positive replies.
Oh, excellent news. Thank you very much for helping us out with that. I should say, of course, at lunchtime, you don't want to miss a cracking interview. A cracking live interview, I can tell you even more. Shaheen Afridi sprays this one wide outside the off stump, left alone by Pope. Through the keeper, there is no run. Our very own Tony Bishop is at this moment psyching himself up for the big interview with Ashley Gray, author of the Unforgiven, I think it's called, which is the story of West Indies cricket, when West Indies cricketers taking part in cricket in South Africa in the apartheid years.
Oh, interesting stuff.
So lots of controversy there, I imagine, that he can get his teeth into. So don't forget to stay with us when the lunch break is called, because Tony will be bringing that fascinating interview to you. In comes Shaheen, bowls to Pope. Pope leaves it outside the off stump. There really doesn't seem to be the dramatic movement that we saw last night when the ball was especially fresh. It's now something like 30 overs old, and it's not quite doing as much, although I'm feeling the fear now that Nakul has said that Mohammad Abbas will do something at some point. I am now afraid for England. When is that?
Let's be honest, it's not the boldest prediction given what Mohammad Abbas has done in his test and first class career.
Well, it's not, but I was just, as with my England fan hat on, I was just beginning to feel that perhaps there's a little less out there today. And in this particular juncture, 33 overs actually bowled so far. And with that ball not being quite as hard and quite as new. Here is Mohammad Abbas bowling to Joss Butler, gets an edge, but it drops short of Asad Shafiq at second slip. Butler playing with something of a dead bat and doing it quite well. So the ball went to ground fairly quickly, not pushing at it too much. So well done, Joss. But I'm sure he's going to feel better when he's got a run under his belt.
Certainly do. We saw Joe Root really tied down by Pakistan yesterday and probably contributed to his downfall. And we saw England bowl 7 maidens worth of dot balls in a row in the morning yesterday.
Yep. Oh, again, that's a good ball from Mohammad Abbas. It does move away. I'm not sure that he was beaten by that or whether he played inside the line, but it actually then swung further. And this time, Mohammad Rizwan does a Shane Dowrich and fails to get his hand on the ball. It's 4 byes.
Ball went through the keeper, but somehow we let it through.
Did swing away, did keep low, should have been stopped.
Yeah, didn't stay down enough for Mohammad Rizwan on that occasion.
Long barrier.
But, the long barrier, the wicketkeeper's long barrier was required there. 100 is up for England, 102 for 4. And they trail by 224. Sun is over Old Trafford at the moment. In comes Mohammad Abbas. Butler gets in behind it, defends it to extra cover, goes on a little bit of a wander. This is really the ultimate in pressure, isn't it, for a player? He's been criticised from all quarters. The only man who loves him anymore is Ed Smith and perhaps Grubby. And the only woman who loves him now is Annie.
Well, Grubby and Annie are both calling for him to be dropped now.
Well, I know, but Annie, I can still see that her passion is still burning for him. In comes Mohammad Abbas, bowls to Joss Butler. Butler gets more side on to this one, tries to drive it, but doesn't really time the ball up towards mid-off, and there is no run. There was a lot of... you felt that she was coming round to that way of thinking, but at the same time, not entirely giving up on the man himself. And that's what you should do as a loyal cricket supporter.
Stand by your man.
I do think
by your man, absolutely.
There is an element, and I'm sure this is not unique to English cricket fandom, of if you take a dislike to a player, you almost want them to fail so you've been proved right.
Well, yes, absolutely. There's a lot of opinion makers and takers out there. Going wide on the crease this time. Mohammad Abbas trying to angle it in again. Doesn't really threaten the off stump, and it's left alone. There is again no run. Yes, that is right. I mean, there is you're sort of torn between what you want to happen as a fan and what you want to see happen as someone who knows what they're talking about. I've been feeling a bit sorry for Joss. I thought he'd improved his game, I think, in the second test at West Indies, and then he got out to an absolutely awful shot in the second innings. Really was terrible, and all that seeming good work had been undone. He's trying his best and he's trying everything. I mean, maybe this should be a relief from not having to keep wicket. Abbas again wide on the crease, and again not angled in enough. Mohammed Rizwan does go to his right and prevent this one running away for byes. That is the end of the over. Abbas has 15 overs, 2 maidens. 15 overs, 2 for 25. England are 102 for 4. Nestlers.
Diane Patson says it'll be dawn here in about an hour and a half in Calgary.
Okay.
Yeah. She also says she has no truck with Fred Titmus's politics, but his wit and insight are wonderful. We can learn to appreciate a person's good points and agree to disagree with others. There you go.
I think that's fair enough.
I mean, most people in this country would probably would never talk to their parents, maybe, and their grandparents ever again if they disagreed with their political view.
Some actually don't.
Yes, that's probably true. Shaheen Afridi starts his 13th over. He's bowling to Ollie Pope. It's drivable, and he aims a drive at it, and it goes absolutely nowhere. He must have got an inside edge down onto his pad, and although he ended up on one knee looking very good, the ball had gone absolutely nowhere. I'm getting worried about him outside the off stump, aiming for these wide ones. He just needs to rein himself in. He could easily give it away here, and that's the last thing that anyone in the England dressing room wants to see.
Pope drives by throwing his hands through the ball. It's not the check drive, and so he's sort of closing the bat face on it a little bit too early on that. Certainly on these on the evidence of the last over or so.
Sometimes they are just too wide to get the full face of the bat onto. This one's a lovely delivery from Shaheen Afridi. A little bit slower at 82, but it was that one that he uses the wrist, an extra cock of the wrist almost, as he sends that down, swinging, hooping, no less, into Ollie Pope, and he forces it back to the bowler. There is no run. This is a fascinating contest between Shaheen Afridi and Ollie Pope. What's going to give? We shall see. 2 slips of gully, backward point, extra cover, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket, and a long leg. In comes the left arm over the wicket. Shaheen Afridi bowls again, and he drives nicely, drives straight, but a good piece of fielding there at mid-off by Azhar Ali, I think the captain, doing some good work there, and there is no run.
By the way, I've just looked up Riaz Afridi, who is Shaheen's older brother, who played one test for Pakistan in 2004. Didn't do particularly well, and no, his haircut is quite dull.
Oh, really? That's disappointing, isn't it? Maybe as Mrs. Afridi gave birth to more and more Afridis, the hair got more bouffant. Anyway, here comes Shaheen into Pope, and Pope leaves this one a little cutter, but far too wide. Even that one was too wide for Pope to go after, and it went further away, 73 miles an hour. So he's looking for some variations this morning. Is Shaheen Afridi? Riaz Afridi. That's the man. He played the one game. He could be in your one test wonders. Broad Dick Weller trophy,
possibly. Although that was people who'd done really well in their one test, and 2 wickets. 2 wickets at 43 doesn't really cut it.
No, all right then, fair enough. I wouldn't mind having an average of 43 in Test cricket, bowling or batting. Ian's in again. This one is pushed up to mid-on, a wide mid-on, who runs round, hairs round, and then throws in dramatically to the striker's end, but they get through for a single. Pope goes to 51 and exposes Joss Butler to Shaheen Afridi for one remaining ball of this over.
Yeah, Shaheen Afridi is evidently very well acquainted with the hairdryer. There's real volume and thickness and sort of fluffiness to his hair. It's lovely.
It is. It's very fluffy, got to say. Right, any changes to the field for Joss Butler? It doesn't seem so, as Shaheen Shah Afridi prepares to bowl the final ball of his 13th over. Joss Butler with bat aloft, waits, and just about plays that off the front foot. Bat and pad close-ish together. I think there was a bit of both involved there. But he survives. He's still waiting for a first run of the morning. We've been here for 30 minutes, and that's not the kind of thing you expect to say about Joss Butler. 103 for 4.
Ed Malarkin, another hot mic sign up without Sky. Every little helps. Thank you very much, sir. Tai Pang Shan says sunset at 12 noon British Standard Time in Hong Kong. Picture to follow.
So hang on, I'm so basically Hong Kong is getting to dusk just as Calgary is getting to dawn.
That's
quite
how
exciting, isn't it?
the Earth spins round.
Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Never knew that.
You get educated on here, don't you?
You do, absolutely. So 11 runs only this morning in 7 overs. Mohamed Abbas continues bowling to Pope, and Pope leaves this one outside the off stump, and it again dies a little bit. I'm getting a feeling about this pitch that it's the bounce is getting a little bit lower.
I think there's a distinct difference between the two ends. Abbas is bowling from the James Anderson end, but I think at the other end, at the Brian Statham end, there is some life in the pitch.
Okay. Ballers with Yasir Shah, who is he was a little bit expensive, but he did get a very crucial wicket last night of Joe Root. Joe Root was looking good, I thought. I mean, I know he was slow, but he was looking good, and then he gets out. That is Joe Root these days. Mohamed Abbas in, jabbed at by Pope, square on the offside, and there is no run. Trailing by 223 now, England. I was just about to say, let's have some more tweets. I looked up, and if you're watching on any of our visual mediums, you will realise that Nestle Boy has gone AWOL. Maybe to let his groceries in, as it were. He did say he had a grocery delivery coming.
I can bring you
so
some comments
at the moment we have no tweeter.
I can bring you some comments on Hot Mic.
Okay.
John says, "Morning Gorillas, seeing how I've downloaded this Hot Mic thing, I may as well try it out."
You might as well. Defended on the front foot. Mohamed Abbas, second ball or third ball was it of his 11th over. Score remains 103 for 4. Well, we talked about a crucial first hour. We've had a crucial first half hour, and in that time, England have survived. They haven't lost another wicket, but runs are at a premium, very difficult to come by. But sometimes you have to do the work and reap your rewards later, as did Shan Masood, as we saw so brilliantly in the last 2 days. Abbas in again, figures of 2 for 25 at the moment, as we look at someone not unlike Mohamed Abbas in delivery. Chris Wokes, similar sort of pace. He's in, bowls outside the off stump through to Mohamed Rizwan as it's left alone by his popishness.
Well, you say so? I would think Wokes is a good 3 or 4 miles an hour quicker than.
Yeah, you're probably right, actually. But I was meaning within. Yes, he is a little bit quicker. And in fact, he's put on pace since, I know, 5 years ago, really, hasn't he? A little bit. So that's maybe talking about the Wokes of a little bit of time ago when I didn't really rate him, and I was chastised regularly by Andy and Brum every time Wokes did something good. He would remind me. And I've come round to the Andy and Brum way of thinking. Wide on the crease goes Mohamed Abbas. Bowls this one a little bit shorter, a little bit wider. Pope leaves it alone, and through to Rizwan it goes. He's back. Was that your groceries, Nestle Boy?
No, they're between 5 and 6. They're coming.
Oh, okay. Well, what was that, to get another of your donuts?
No, I had to use the men's room.
Oh goodness me! In the middle of a session, we should have a super sub when you do that.
I've got some messages on YouTube.
Okay.
Alex Marmon's with us. Says good morning. I'm doing well, Gorillas. Thank you for reading out my message and for asking how I am too. How are you, Alex? I'm listening to your commentary whilst I work from home.
Good. Everyone should be made to work from home. In comes Mohamed Abbas, bowls full outside the off stump. Even if they don't work, Pope is forward in defence. You worked from home for a long time without actually doing any work, didn't you, Nestlers?
I think I played golf a lot more than.
Oh, you played? Oh, so you did do something. And listen to Test Match Sofa.
That's correct. I remember it well.
We remember it well. 1 for 18, Shaheen Afridi. Mohamed Abbas, 2 for 25. Naseem Shah, we haven't seen him yet this morning, none for 18. Yasir Shah, 1 for 36. We haven't seen Shadab Khan at all so far. So while there's a little bit out there for these quick bowlers and they're threatening and England aren't getting away, I imagine that Pakistan will stick with the quicker men. And in fact, although there is to be a change, it will be to another quick bowler, perhaps the quickest of the lot. It's going to be Naseem Shah.
Here comes the kid.
When Naseem Shah left home, he said to his dad, they all
Yes, that's how we introduced the kid, as we've now come to know and love him. Kid Nassim bowled 5 overs last night, none for 18. Waka Yunus is an interested observer as the 17-year-old jogs up to the wicket and then lets fly, driven by Joss Butler, still looking for that first run of the morning, but straight to mid-off. It's going to get more and more frustrating for Joss the longer this goes on, but he's fighting it out, he's battling it out. Made plenty of demons in his mind, I should imagine, from all the criticism that he's taken, all the mistakes that he's made. He will be very unhappy with those himself.
Can I be the word of doom here?
You are the word of doom, apart from Josie Oak.
He's gonna get out for naught.
He's not going to get out for naught because he's already got
today,
15.
but he's not going to score a run today.
Oh no! Nassim in, bowls to Butler, back of a length, left alone. Good carry through to the keeper. So that might be right, what you were saying there, Knackle, that from the Statham end there is a little bit more carry.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Kid Nassim and Shaheen are much faster than a good 10 miles an hour faster in some cases than Mohammad Abbas. I think Butler is trying to make an effort to get forward. He's sort of pressing onto the front foot. Occasionally, it's getting him into trouble where he's having to play round his front pad a little.
It's kind of torture, though, isn't it, watching it, in a sense. Nassim in again, on the back foot edge! Oh, is that just short of slip? Babar Azam takes it on the half volley. I thought that was the end of Joss Butler as he aimed a stroke off the back foot, got the edge. Wow, that was skin of his teeth stuff as Babar Azam went down and took it very well, actually, cleanly. Ooh, Joss. Oh, he's playing with us. He's playing with us at the moment.
I've got another prediction to make as well.
Is it even more doom-laden?
No, but Tony Bishop will mention Brian Statham's bloody shoes today when you talk about the Brian Statham meme.
Oh, great, excellent. Nassim in to Butler. Butler plays square on the offside this time. Foolish delivery. And again, straight to the fielder. There is no run.
Alex Marmon is listening to us from Uxbridge in West London.
Is it dawn or dusk there?
I don't know. Colin Mihayan. Massive innings for Josh Butler, massive day in his career. Listening to you guys while on a staycation break in Belfast.
Belfast. You should pop in and see our man Rog McCann.
Especially, I think he's getting a bit lonely in Belfast right now.
I expect he is, actually.
Well, he can't go out. He can't work, can he?
And he can't play music. I know, it's absolutely devastating. In comes Nazim, bowls to Butler. Butler drives. He's got to run. Nestle Boy has proved wrong. He's played that beautifully between extra cover and mid-off. It's not going to quite make it to the boundary as it's chased by the 35-year-old Azhar Ali. But Butler has got 3 runs and England are 106 for 4.
Well, lovely shot, actually, getting right. I was talking about him getting on the front foot, and he's managed to get right on the front foot there to Naseem Shah bowling in the high 80s as our camera feed judders. That was a very nice extra cover drive.
Yeah, well, actually, that's the point is about how well he got his foot out to the ball there. I mean, we've seen him so often leaden-footed playing that shot, relying on his hands, and although the will has been there, the position has not been, and he's been bowled or chopped on. Oh, he's gone after the drive as Ollie Pope. Oh my goodness me, that was a wide tempter, and he was drawn into it so easily. Could he have got an edge through to the keeper? But England, I'm not quite sure how, survive Naseem Shah's first over of the morning. They've moved on to 106 for 4.
Well, if Butler loses his place in the test team, says Alex Marmon, could Ollie Pope be an option as a wicket-keeper batsman as a way of having a strong-looking batting lineup?
Well, we did have Ollie Pope. Who's Ollie Butler? Ollie Pope kept wicket, didn't he? Was it on the final day of the New Zealand series?
I think it was the whole test, wasn't it?
The whole test, yeah, may well have been. And I think was Butler ill, and he dropped quite an important catch that England arguably could have gone on to win that match if they'd got rid of Ross Taylor. I think it was down the leg side. He's in again, bowls to Butler. This is Mohammad Abbas continuing. Just dragging the bat inside the line of the ball. And there is no run. We'll have a change at the end of this over. The Bish should be on his way. David Brooke should be popping up any moment now. And Nestlers will stay with you for summarising reasons.
Tony Bishop said today I will be mostly not to be mentioning Brian Statham's bloody shoes.
What was it? Did he mention his shoes yesterday? I must have missed that.
No, he's mentioned them a few times.
What is it about Brian Statham's shoes?
They're bloody.
In comes Mohamed Abbas, bowls a lovely delivery to Butler, who's beaten outside the off stump, and Mohamed Abbas stands there with his hands in a prayer position, saying, "Lord, Lord, whoever you may be, wherever you may be."
I am the Lord of the Dance, said he.
I think along those lines, yeah. We'll get Michael Flatley out in a moment doing a little jig for you.
Good Lord, no, please.
No, all right then. We'll try not to.
River bloody dance.
Anyway, so how many runs have been added this morning? 14 runs. Butler's got 3 of them. Pope's got most of them. Also been 4 byes. Mohamed Abbas into Butler. He's hit on the pad. Might have got a bit of an inside edge because the appeal was going. The appeal was going up, and then it stopped in midair, and Abbas put his hands to his head on this occasion in frustration. But, Butler hangs in there. England trail by 220. Is this the calm before the storm? That's
No,
what I
actually,
wonder
a very
about
good
there.
ball from Abbas. That was going down leg. I don't think it was coming back enough to hit the stumps, and Butler's missed out on a scoring opportunity there through the leg side.
He has indeed.
Some love for Knackle's shirt from Muttley. Says it's amazing. He's just noticed it.
In comes Mohamed Abbas again. Onto the front foot goes Jos Butler outside the line of off stump just and defends all the way back to Mohamed Abbas, who is now getting a bit of a talking to from Richard Illingworth about how close he's getting in to the, not so much the stumps, but the area that fast bowlers are not really allowed on.
He had a little word yesterday. I don't think this is a warning, but it's something to watch.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a warning. Let's see how close is he getting to that. Yes, I suppose you could argue. More dangerous for a left-handed batsman at that end, I would say. Mohamed Abbas wide on the crease. Butler raises his arms to the heavens, allows that to go through. And again, there is no run. Hot Mic, go to Hot Mic. And if you don't go to Hot Mic, give us money by going to patreon.com/Guerrilla Cricket. If you give us $10 or more a month, you will go onto our Roll of Honour that goes round all day, every day, on archive as well as live cricket. You will be famous around the world. Your name will be in lights. And you will also get, for while stocks last, a free T-shirt. Abbas in again, final ball of the over. Butler plays, Butler misses, beaten by that one outside the off stump. A little bit of gentle away swing, and England remain after 38 overs, 106 for 4. Butler has 18. The Pope has a few more than that, and Tony Bishop has popped up in my pop-up, and he will lead you through the next 40 minutes.
Am I? I thought I was doing tweets, Hendo.
You are, in fact. I completely got that wrong.
I'm
It's
quite happy
David
to do
Brooke,
either, but
who has also turned up with a cup of coffee, who will be doing ball by ball. Morning, Dave. Morning, Tony. I shall see you all and
Hendo.
talk to you all later.
morning, Hendo. Morning, David.
Oh, hi Tony. Thanks very much, Hendo. As entertaining as ever, and couldn't get England many runs though, Hendo. And here's Nazim Shah into Pope, who plays that one out onto the offside, looks for a single, and there's no run. So what do we make of Jos Butler this morning? A lot of pressure on him, a lot of guerrilla cricket correspondence on the subject overnight of Jos Butler's future. How many?
Still in?
Yeah, how many to secure his place? That was the question. Or does it depend on the outcome of the match?
I think he needs to score in both innings, doesn't he?
How many?
60,
70? Would he
70,
be safe?
60,
Yeah, safe at
70?
60 or 70, I reckon, yeah. Sure. And that's taken, that really did take off from a length. And Pope had a little dart at it. And Mohamed Rizwan there showing how he had to take that ball right in front of his face. It just seamed away as well and really took off. And what a great ball
Surely it's
from...
about it's about the impact rather than the amount of runs, isn't it? If he sees England to a lead, that's worth more than the actual number of runs he may score. Obviously, he would have to score runs in getting there.
yeah, he'd have to get quite a few. I mean, he'd get a century.
But he's not doing it on his own. If he got
indeed.
60 not out, and I'll hold the thought.
And that's turned out onto the leg side by Pope, and there's no run.
He was the anchor around which a lead was somehow built, looking unlikely at this stage, that's worth far more than 120, and we're all out because everyone else gets out around him, I think.
Yeah, I
but
suppose remaining runless is a form of anchor.
does it cover up the drops and the missed stumpings of England's innings?
No, he had a shocker yesterday, I'm afraid. And there's no going around it. But so did a lot of England's team yesterday, I feel.
Yeah.
Certainly after lunch, they were very, very poor, and they're paying the price for that now.
Here's Nazim Shah to continue. He's bowling to Pope, who's on 51. Oh, and again beaten outside the off stump. Nazim turns to the umpire. Not really an appeal. It was more hands outstretched, just as if to say, "What more have I got to do?" That was groping from Pope.
Is this turning into a frustrating session for Pakistan? Would you say?
Well, that's a good point. You're certainly getting some fantastic movement here. This is really nice bowling from the kid, as we must now call it. What a great session from Grubby doing Billy Connolly last night. The whole of the last 10 overs as Billy Connolly. It was absolutely remarkable. Nazim coming in again. What's he going to do this time? This time Pope leaves it outside the off stump, but it's been an impressive start for him this morning. What's his figures? No wicket for 21. In his this is and Abbas, of course, has been very tight, 2 for 25. And Mohammed Abbas kind of changed the game, didn't he, when he took those 2 wickets, transformed the contest. Butler on 18. He added just that 3. I beg your pardon. It went for 3 this morning. And Pope on a well-made 51. Here he is, racing for Nazim, and outside the off stump, leaves that one alone. That's the end of that over. England are 106 for 4. Tony, what have you got to find on social media?
Well, Jersey Oak says Abbas only got in the side when he was 27. Imagine if he'd got in at 22 or 23. One that Pakistan missed for too long. Yeah, I kind of go along with that. John Thompson says, how many runs do you reckon Butler needs to not be dropped? I fear he has enough already. For this series, I think, John, you could very well be right, yes. But if you look at that session yesterday, I mean, England were so good in the morning, perhaps a couple of moments where they didn't have luck. They just seemed so sloppy in the afternoon, the opening with the spinners for so long, the 27 runs conceded. I mean, it wasn't a surprise to anyone when facing what is an extremely high quality pace attack in the evening of the end of day 2 that England struggled. Be honest, put your hands up if you thought that 3 wickets going down or 4 wickets going down was a complete surprise. I don't think it was to me.
No, indeed. Here's Mohammed Abbas to continue. Again, he's hitting that spot absolutely bang on again. He's got this very repeatable action, as they say. Of course, Mohammed Abbas, my memory serves me right, was left out of the Pakistan team when they last toured England for the first couple of tests. Only made an appearance at the end of the series. Haven't made that mistake this time, and of course he's been prolific in county cricket. Was prolific for Leicestershire. He's so much on the money, isn't he? It hasn't given Butler anything.
Well, he's stump to stump. He's a Pakistan Tim Murtagh.
Here's Abbas bowls, and that's outside the off stump. Butler leaves that one.
A tad quicker, maybe here and there, but in principle, the degree of movement and the relentless accuracy is just phenomenal. And you know, we've all talked about the ball that dispatched Ben Stokes. You know, even down to Hendo, I think, analysing the degrees of angle that the ball managed to manoeuvre its way through. He's a class act. All 3 of these bowlers are class acts at engagingly different stages of their career. It's going to be fun to watch them this series.
Butler's on 18. He's going to take strike now again. And Abbas to him. Again, it's right on the money, and back with defensive goes Butler. There's no run. So we talked about partnerships being really important. I guess this is the key one for England, isn't it? And well, no wonder Butler's taking his time. A lot dependent on this. What with Wokes next in, he's out of form. And then you've got the tail end Charlies. But looking forward to seeing Stuart Broad again.
I'm sure his Stuart Broad batting will be... I noticed the tweet this morning. They were already starting to be on red alert for the fact that he would be batting today.
I wonder if Jonathan Trott's had a word with him and sort of
He
the
looked
new
like,
batting
looks
coach.
like he's struggling to stay awake there.
Jonathan Trott, the new batting coach. Abbas bowls. That's more pitched up, and Butler drives to mid-off. Thinks about a single, but there isn't one there. That was the first thing that Abbas has given Butler in this over. Drive a ball, but straight to the fielder. Joe Root's hair is really taking off there. He's on the sidelines, and looks like he's got a hairdryer. Actually, looks like he's done a bit of styling.
Well, it's either that or the most extreme case of bedhead.
Yeah, I guess he hasn't got much to do in the first part of the day. But yeah, it is a bedhead and a half.
It's just got out of bed, haven't even got in the shower yet. Look.
Yeah, Dennis Compton would be turning in his grave. Mohammed Abbas bowls. That's down the leg side. Did he get a touch on that? It's evaded Mohammed Rizvan behind the stumps. Let's wait for the umpire's signal. What do you reckon? Did he get anything on that?
I don't think he did.
No, so we'll wait.
Oh, no,
maybe
I
he
was
did.
wrong.
And let's have a look.
No, he didn't. Surely he didn't even play a shot.
Went through the keeper. Somehow let it through, straight through the keeper, went through.
I think straight through the keeper's a little bit harsh to be honest.
Would you say 4 byes then?
Yeah, because I don't even think it touched the pad, did it? It just went through him.
No,
Yeah,
I
4
don't
byes.
think he touched
4.
anything.
Yeah, still 4 on the board though, so England go up to the height of 110 for 4. And Abbas bowls, and Butler is absolutely solid in defence there. End of that over, Butler remains on 18, Pope on 51. England 110 for 4.
I was just temporarily losing my Twitter feed. Here we go. Let's see. No, it's all very quiet. People are stunned into silence.
Well, can I give a couple of shout-outs then, as we've
Please
got a
do.
little bit of a gap? Can I just give a shout-out to one of our listeners in on the Suffolk-Essex borders, Mr. Oliver Bond, and he's a very keen student of the game. He thinks that there needs to be a 100 partnership here for England to get back in the game. He's waiting, very shrewd punter. He's waiting for Pakistan to go odds on before laying them. So that's a top tip there. I haven't got to ask Bear, because Bear's not around at the moment, as whether he's put his money down. Here's a new over from Naseem Shah, and that's flicked away nicely by Pope. But there's a man right back at deep square leg, and so they take a single. Is he going to come up now? Yes, the man at deep square leg comes up for Butler to square leg, blocking off the runs for Butler. And the question is, can his patience hold, or will we see that more skittish side of Jos Butler, which he certainly kept well hidden this morning? He's been an absolute study in defence.
Steady.
Steady.
Commentator's curse.
Oh, well, I don't care. Here comes Naseem Shah bowls outside the off stump. Butler leaves that alone. If you take that through to its logical outcome,
never say
Nestle,
anything.
you couldn't say anything, could you? You couldn't say anything nice about anyone.
You know, Naseem
Particularly,
Shah,
Butler really doesn't need it at the moment, does he?
Well, yeah.
young Naseem Shah and Stuart Broad have something in common. What's that?
Oh, hold on. Let's leave that one dangling in the air for the Twitterati to get
We
in
will
touch.
leave it
What
and
do
that to dangle.
Naseem Shah and Stuart Broad have in common? Tony's teaser of the morning.
Tony's teaser.
Naseem, and that did come in a bit off the seam, but it was a safe leave from Jos Butler. So the question is, Tony's teaser, what do Naseem Shah and Stuart Broad have in common? Tweet us now at Gorilla Cricket, or give us a line on Hot Mic or any other platform of your choice. We're now available on so many platforms, more platforms than Clapham Junction. That's got 12. Oh no, we haven't quite got 12. Has it got 14?
Is it something to do with his father?
Well, Maddie
platforms than
in
each
the
choice.
meantime says...
Oh no, we got, yeah.
Oh, Lord.
And Broad goes back. Butler goes onto the back foot, plays that one down, and there's no run. Yeah, reading out wrong answers is a great way to get people calling in and sending us their responses. So, is it because they've got the same father?
No, I didn't mean that.
Butler on 18, Pope on 52. Do we have a member of the crowd? I thought there was someone in the crowd there for a moment.
That's a train platform.
With a drum. Oh, it's a train platform.
It's not actually quite technically accurate, but they have an affinity. Okay, let me say an affinity rather than...
Okay, affinity. I like it. That squares up Butler, and he plays that one onto the offside, and there's no run. Butler rehearses virtually the same shot that he actually played. There's no difference that time between the rehearsed shot and the actual shot. And the outcome remains the same for Butler, which is no runs. Or as Boycott would say, no runs, good cricket. Could have scored there, but he didn't. Are you missing Geoffrey Boycott?
Not when I aim carefully.
Not when I see Ebony Rainford Baines on the TV screen. No.
Yeah, here's Naseem outside the off stump. Butler lets that one, leaves that one alone. England after that 111 for 4.
I was about to say, Maddie joined us on Twitter and says, hey guys, say hi to me. So hi, Maddie, delighted to have you with us. Leah says, is Abbas auditioning for Gene Simmons' job in Kiss with that makeup and tongue action? Ooh, there's a thought. Maybe someone could mock us up, Mohammed Abbas as Gene Simmons mock-up. I'm sure he's quite got the hair for it, but you could probably do something with the makeup. Kiss is a funny band. I used to have many friends who liked Kiss. Always remember them visually. Couldn't name you a single song that they actually wrote or recorded.
I was made.
But I remember the act more than any of the actual music.
Shock Me, Love Gun.
Well, you know more than me, Nestler. You're an aged rocker, of course. Well, just a rocker. I'll take back the aged.
Mohammed Abbas. And that's right on the money. Mohammed Rizvan has come up to the stumps now, so clearly either Pope or Butler were batting out of their crease. Probably Pope, as he's come up to the stumps for him. Interesting to see if he stays up. Nicely taken by Rizvan. I wonder if Butler would have done the same. Would we have seen him come up to the stumps for one of our quicks? Just leaving that out there.
I doubt it.
I fucking wouldn't.
Yeah.
1-1-1 for 4. Pope waits for Abbas right on the money again, and Pope plays that out into the offside, and there's no run. So we have an affinity between Stuart Broad and Yaseem Shah. What is the affinity?
Football team supporting?
No.
Come on,
Maybe
all of you
affinity's
in
the
the
wrong word.
Twitter sphere. Come on.
Mog does say, is the answer their father is Chris Broad? No.
both-
Jay Grover says they both own pubs. Oh wait, no.
Are they
Yes,
both
Stuart
huge
Broad.
Kiss fans?
Stuart Broad and
Two
Harry
sub-
Gurney.
Of course, Harry Gurney.
Yeah, Gurney's the other partner in the pub chain. Here's Abbas bowls. Pope covers up, plays that one into the offside, and there's no run. So I think we can say we have not stalemate, but we have a situation where the pressure is on these two batsmen to score runs, and they're not really not making much progress. England still trail by 215, and if they keep playing like this, they're not going to make much impression on that lead.
I wonder if it's going to be one of those sort of situations where they spend time at the crease but then just get out and nothing's
Do you know,
happened.
Nestlers, you must have read my mind. That's exactly what was going through my head.
Abbas outside the off stump, nicely taken by Rizvan, who looks good up at the stumps there. Abbas is not express pace, but he's still an interesting challenge on this pitch because there's purchase, and as Rizvan, he had to sort of get one foot off the ground, taking that acrobatically. Yes, he was ready to whip the bells off as well if there'd been any slippage of the back foot.
But I do feel they are frustrating the Pakistanis here.
They are.
Or it's
not. Yeah. Yes, indeed. 49
they
partnership.
bowled well. They bowled well.
Yeah. Abbas to Pope, and there's an appeal for caught behind. The Rizvan's interested. Richard Illingworth is not interested. But nice keeping from Rizvan. Was it appeal for a catch or stumping? Interesting if you get a stumping off Abbas, wouldn't it? Let's have a look at that one. No, it just missed the edge of the bat, and Rizvan went up for it. More in hope than expectation, but nice piece of keeping. Good to see him at his work up at the stumps. Butler remains on 18 at the non-strikers end, and Pope is on 52. But it is a good partnership. There's 49 they've put on. You're right, it will frustrate Pakistan the longer they don't take a wicket. Can they last the whole session? No runs and no wickets. Be a challenge for the commentary team. Abbas, and it's defensively by Pope, and the outcome is the same. Maiden over. Pope 52, Butler 18. England remain 111 for 4.
There's the oak. it says suggests both support Nottingham Forest. Stuart Broad, maybe. I couldn't speak for Naseem Shah. Leah says, "Okay, Tony. Anything is ever recorded is absolutely worthless crap." Okay, Naveed Nadeem says it's common for Abbas ever since he started his career for Pakistan, but I don't know what we'd said, but he's replying to it. Rabinair says, is it that they were actually born on the same date and year? No, Ravi. They may have been, but I'm pretty sure they weren't. I've got a 1 in 365 and or allowing for a leap year chance of being right on that.
What was being wrong on that? Yeah, what was the catchphrase from that host? It's good, but it's not right.
It's almost like it's good, but it's not Memorex. That was an ad, wasn't it? Do you remember those ads? When they used to misinterpret lyrics, which were always quite funny. I remember they did. Swords of a Thousand Men was one of the ones they misinterpreted. The Israelites, they definitely did. Became my Israelite, didn't it?
Misheard lyrics. Wonderful.
Yes. Yeah, but it was four Memorex cassette tapes. Now, if there's anyone listening who doesn't know what a cassette tape is, ask your mum and dad.
Are they making a revival?
No, they are. They're making a comeback.
Yeah, comeback. Very hot property now. Decent cassette machine. Yes, decent cassette machine. If only I'd kept my original Ghetto Blaster.
We'll be back to 78s next.
Well,
you just never know.
Yeah. Ravi, good morning to Ravi. How are you keeping, Ravi? Nice to hear from you, wherever you are at the moment. Where does Ravi live?
In India, I think. Mock says they were both born with tails. Not that I know of, unless it's tails to tell. Ratchet Dave says both have test match hat tricks. No, not.
Are we getting close, Tony? When you have any of the answers so far got close?
It is to do with bowling.
Oh, okay. Don't tell us any more. I'm keen to guess. It's like the cheese shop sketch. Pope on 52, Butler on 18. In case you think we're not giving the score enough, that's because the score isn't changing very much.
111 for 4, in case you did want to know.
Yeah, 111 for 4. We've had a number of maiden overs. Mohammed Abbas has bowled 6 of them in his 14, 2 for 25. Shaheen Afridi 1 for 18. Yasir Shah 1 for 36, and Naeem Naseem Shah 0 for 22 off 8. We're having a little break as some shoe repairs have been carried out on the outfield. So, administrator's dream, this, isn't it? No crowd, no public to worry about, no consumers. It's an ECB dream.
What?
Really, do you think?
What do you mean, just bring in the television money and not worry actually about having to actually stay?
Well, they haven't looked like they've been very much in touch with the cricketing public over things like the 100. They seem to avoid contact with the cricketing public. Indeed, they first positioned the 100 as not being for cricket fans. They had to change that later on.
I agree with you on all of that, David, 100%. I am, though, going to say, I think the West Indies series and this series, with everything that's going on around it that they've had to plan and accommodate in the way they've been stage managed, televised, reported, has been exemplary. And that's a lot to do with the quality and the preparedness of the opposition to come and take part in the first place. So,
are you angling for an accreditation, Tony?
Sounds like
no, I was just whilst I would happy to agree with you.
You playing the Sonny Gavaskar role? I was doing the Harsha Bogle.
You were fine, yes, but I was absolutely agreeing with you on what you were saying. However, I was adding just a little bit of.
You're right. It's another Steve
nuance.
Elworthy. It's another Steve Elworthy triumph. Everything that guy is given to do, he does it exemplary. Whether it's organising World Cups or in this case, organising this biosecure environment. Now, it has been well done, and of course, all credit to the ECB for introducing the Bob Willis Trophy. Amidst some resistance, I believe, from the chairman, wasn't that keen, wanted to play a 50-over competition, and some resistance from three counties, including Hampshire and Northants, who didn't want to play it.
Yes,
because it cost them money to play cricket. They're better off not bringing back their furloughed staff, which is pretty cool. It is, but good to see that the other counties don't agree with that. And Butler waits for Naseem, and he plays that down. Thinks about he doesn't even think about a single. No one. But I noticed Johnny Bairstow is going to be playing some 4-day cricket in the next round of Bob Willis Trophy matches, which I think starts today, or is it starts tomorrow? But which is nice to see Johnny Bairstow getting an outing for Yorkshire. 4-day match about to start. When do those next rounds start? Well, I think they started today. Here's Abbas bowls, and Butler drives. This time he's found the gap. Runs here, and a big chase for the fielder, and it's going to go to the boundary. A jingle, please.
It's Nissan She. It's Nissan She.
It's been slim pickings this morning for jingle fans, but there at last is something we can jingle. And it was a nice shot from Butler, very fluent, and placed it nicely, as if to say, I've waited my time, I've bided my time, and now I'm going to go through the gears. Or at least I'm beginning to place the ball between the fielders.
I was about to say, at least the car's just edged forwards. I don't know how many gears he's gone through.
Yeah, at least he said that he's not in aid of roadside assistance. Abbas to Butler. What's he going to do this time? This time it's driven straight back. Tim bump ball to Abbas, to Shah, I beg your pardon. Would have been a crowd catch if there'd been a crowd. And if he caught it, which he didn't, on the bounce. We're seeing at close hand the bouffon haircut of Shaheen Afridi, which Hendo was referring to this morning. It's very boof, isn't it? So we've got a couple of bouffons this morning. Joe Root's bouffon.
Oh, Joe Roots wasn't a bouffon. Joe Roots was just bedhead that he couldn't be asked to comb.
Right, there's a lot of it. I'm envious as hell. I'm just glad for the headphones. Something to think about for the skipper, Pakistan, as this partnership passes 50, and Butler leaves this one outside the off stump. England 115 for 4, so the two of them have built on this morning. It's been slow going, but a lot riding on this for Joss Butler. The knives are out for him in the press today. The Fourth Estate, the media, and indeed even on the Guerrilla Cricket WhatsApp group. The knives are being sharpened for Joss.
I wasn't even out of bed when my WhatsApp started ping, ping, ping,
ping,
and I thought, oh Lord, what's that? And
yeah, even Annie's defence, I thought, was slightly less spirited than normal.
Yeah, I think it was crumbling.
Yeah, it was
outside off stump a couple of times.
Yeah, she was feeling beleaguered. Shah and the man himself, Joss Butler, lets it go outside the off stump. So Joss, 22 of 75 balls, barely recognisable from the IPL thumper at the start of the innings.
Interestingly enough, Annie kept saying he needs to come back to Somerset. Has she forgotten that he'd gone to Lancashire?
Maybe she meant he needs to return. To Somerset.
Yeah, that could be it.
But,
well, that's just selfish, Tony. That's what that is.
Just wants him back.
Yeah, just wants him.
Joss, he's on 22, and he's going to take the last ball of this over from Nassim outside the off stump. Let's go. He's on 22. Pope on 52. England trail by 211 on 115 for 4. Any correct answers yet, Tony? To your
I'll tell you what we do have though. We have from Chris TB, Chris Timsdale, of course. He has shown us Mohammed Abbas as Simmons, as what's his name, Simmons from Kiss, quite visually and brilliantly.
Oh.
So that has been done and looks superb. Mog is suggesting neither of them have won a Nobel Prize for Physics, but were nominated for chemistry. I'm not quite sure.
I think you're going to have to tell us, Tony.
Leah, I will do. Leah suggesting hard porn and then something to do with Steven Seagal, which I'm not quite sure how that relates to either of them, but many of the answers haven't.
Well, that sounds a lot more interesting than this ball from Abbas, which he's just played to mid-wicket. Leah, you're going to have to tell us a little bit more of what's in your imagination at the moment. Hope on 52, Butler 22. So, yeah, Tony, there's still answers coming in. So do we want to let this play for one more over? What is the affinity between Tony's teaser, Tony's morning teaser, turning into Tony's afternoon teaser? What is the connection between Nazim Shah and Stuart Broad? They have an affinity. And so far, no one's got it right. It's something to do with bowling, says Tony. He's giving you all a clue. Come on now. Field change. What have we got here for Hope? Short mid-wicket is coming in. So it suggests that Mohammed Abbas is going to slightly change his angle of attack, maybe go slightly straighter to Hope. Rizvan's right up at the stumps for him. He bowls, and that's he's found the gap now. The gap that was made by that field change, and Hope is able to, let's say, squirt a single. 53, he goes and brings Butler. At least they've changed ends. Afridi is warming up, which I look forward to seeing another spell from him. Yet to see the spinners on this morning. And of course Shadab Khan has yet to bowl in this innings. Knuckles waving. No, he's not. Thought about waving.
No, he's just playing with his beard.
He is waving.
Oh, he is waving.
Oh, it's a no ball. Yes, Knuckle has spotted a no ball before even the third umpire, and that is signalled by Richard Illingworth. Of course, who did signal a no ball in the early on in the innings, didn't he? And realised that it was now the third umpire's job to do the same. So Abbas bowls and Butler plays that defensive shot. Doesn't get very far forward when he plays it, but it's his trademark shot. Look at that bench that Pakistan have, Neste. Sorry, I was about to say, when you saw the Pakistan coaching team there, the absolute quality of that coaching setup. I mean, Ollie Bond was mentioning this to me this morning. When you've got Misbah, Yunus, Mushtaq and Waka Yunus as your coaching team, I mean...
Yeah,
well, we're used
great
to
players,
Pakistan.
but are they great coaches? It seems so.
So far.
Mohammed Abbas gets close to the stumps. Oh, that one swings away. A fantastic piece of wicket keeping by Mohammed Rizvan, standing up to the stumps, dives full length, and that would have been called a wide in club cricket, but he gets away with that because it just took off. Wonderful piece of glove work.
That was fantastic. Just going back to the no ball calling, are you saying the umpire can't call a no ball?
Well, that's a good point. I need to check that. But certainly, Illingworth looked as though he should not have
he called it right completely, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Good question. We need to find that out. This one's delivered wide of the crease, and Butler uses the angle. Going to go for a quick single, and makes his ground. So good work there from Butler. Just placed it wide of the bouffanted Afridi, and they get a single. Yeah, so the question is, can the umpire still call a no ball? Can the on-field umpire still call no balls?
I assume the answer's yes.
Got to be, hasn't it?
And the one he
Surely.
called was really clear, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a touch of the Emirs about it. Not that I'm not suggesting anything untoward, but it's just quite a way down.
Maybe you just can't stop yourself. If you're an umpire and you see a bowler who's like 9 inches to a foot over the line,
should you be at that?
Your years training to spot those.
No, indeed. Abbas, and that's flailed away by Pope, and he's found the gap nicely going through the extra cover boundary, and he's going to get a boundary for that.
1 2 ka 4 4 2 ka 1. My name is Lakhan. My name is Lakhan.
Nice boundary from Pope. Do you think you can call a no ball because you think you've seen one, and then the third umpire can correct you, and you have to give the that sign where you change your decision? Is that possible?
Good point. Yeah.
Because you're right, Tony. You're not going to be able to stop yourself if you've been umpiring for 30 years, looking for no balls. I mean, it's just an instinctive reaction, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Abbas, Pope breaking the stranglehold, and since they changed the field, he's got another gap there. So maybe they should never have changed the field. That was another single for Pope. He goes on to 58. Butler 23 ended that over. England 123 for 4.
Right. Well, Ratchet Dave was right. They do both have hat tricks. That wasn't so. There is a connection, but it's not the one I had in mind. Jersey Oak said their first Test wicket was the same person. No, but I'm going to tell you my answer there, because the first Test wicket for Naseem Shah was, of course, David Warner, and we all know that David Warner is very much the favourite and most regular wicket of Stuart Broad. So if we were to open his Test match account, Naseem Shah had him caught behind Brisbane in 2019 for a duck as well. So there you go. They both have a liking for dismissing David Warner.
Naseem Shah bowls, and Pope latches onto this one, and he's going to get another 4. So the runs are now coming. That was wide of the off stump, and he played it with an angled bat and found the gap sort of between third slip, second slip and gully. Nicely directed by Pope. He was well in control of that shot, and he now moves on to 62. He's fast becoming the most reliable player in this England middle order. well, after Stokes, Shah bowls and Pope plays onto the leg side, and there's no runs. Forgetting about Ben Stokes. Do you think there's extra pressure on Ben Stokes when he plays as a specialist batsman? One of the things about all-rounders is that there's less pressure on them when they've got to... Remember, whenever both of them played as a specialist batsman, never did anything. Because there's more pressure on you to perform when you've only got one string on your bow.
Yeah, I think so. You haven't mentioned your friend Toby this morning. I would be really interesting to hear what I'd be. So I'll give you a chance to in a moment after this ball.
Here comes Naseem Shah, bowling right arm over. Oh, it takes the edge, and is that taken in the gully? Yes, it is. A wicket for the youngster Naseem Shah. That's the end of Ollie Pope. He's out for 62, and well, he hasn't got to won't have to change his shirt now, Ollie, after that, because he's going to go back to the pavilion. He's out for 62, caught in the gully. Nicely taken by Shadab Khan in the gully.
That was a really good catch. He was going all over the place, wasn't he?
He really was, and that's the 14th wicket, number 14 for Naseem Shah in his short career, 5-match Test career. Best bowling of 5 for 31, but he's looked good this morning, and he really deserved that wicket actually, because he's been, probably posed as many problems as anyone this morning. With his that moving away off the seam, and just as that partnership was building, and just as Ollie Pope was beginning to find the boundary with 2 fours, he's back in the hutch.
The frustration ends for Pakistan.
Indeed.
Well, you're certainly right. That's his 14th Test wicket.
And Mohamed Abbas at the other end with 77 and only 19 matches. I say only because of his seniority. Well, it's going to be interesting now for England, isn't it? Because Woakes has been in no sort of form with the bat, and then you've got Don Bess and Broad and Anderson and Archer. Should not forget Jofra, although he hasn't yet been able to convert his county Sussex form into Test match runs.
If you were Josh Butler's scriptwriter, though, you might have said, "Well, this tees it up better than almost anything."
Here's the new batsman.
He's on Instagram, and he's a Twitter fan. On the Ashes tour, not Ben Stokes, but he'll have to do.
Well, indeed, he isn't Ben Stokes, but he will have to do, because Ben Stokes was out for duck yesterday. And he's out there because of a really great catch from Shadab Khan in the gully from the deserving Naseem Shah, who takes his first wicket of the match. The 17-year-old, if he's still 17, he was at the start of the tour.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, good. And it's quite extraordinary, actually, a 17-year-old, isn't it? And he's going to bowl now to the new batsman. Woakes waits for him. And that's confident enough off the front foot. There's a short extra cover now in for Woakes. There's no run there. Let's look at Chris Woakes' scores this summer. If we can find those, I'll be very interested to... not many runs there, has he? He's only played in 2 of the Test matches. Butler on 23 at the other end. Yeah, you're saying that it's scripted, set up for Butler, Tony. That's your point.
Yes.
Yeah. Woakes, since his ton against India in 2018, averages just 12 with the bat. Thank you, Knuckle. Only 12 with the bat for Woakes since the century. So, yeah, something to think about for him. There's 3 slips in a gully now for Woakes, and Naseem Shah will be eyeing this potential sculp wide of the off stump. Wasn't so confident from Woakes, but he just jabs down on it and plays it down. So England have avoided the follow-on. They trail now by 199. I don't think Pakistan would have had the slightest intention of enforcing it, but it just indicates that there's a long way to go in this England innings. And yeah, for this to be scripted for Butler, he would need to play that role of batting with the tail that I think Ed Smith wanted him to play. You know, the sort of number 7, wasn't it?
Yeah,
he's obviously 6 in this match.
We talked a lot about it. I'll give you Chris Wokes' most recent scores.
Yeah, thank you.
1-0.
Nothing bowls a bouncer underneath it. Ducks Wokes.
37, but that was into Team Butler versus Team Stokes game.
Oh.
Okay.
And then 12-0, and you go back to February when he made 40 against South Africa.
127 for 5 England at the end of that over.
So not well. We have loads of people still going. Shining the ball, says Thilo Fob. Jay Grover says, my nan got me my first non-classical or folk tape. It was Kiss's Crazy Nights. To this day no one knows why, and she's taken the secret to her grave. Tired Grace says, please, I know what cricketers were born on my birthday, and there's only one of them. Are we still looking at replays? I'm just checking.
I hope so, yeah. Otherwise, we've gone back to the BBC coverage of the 80s when it was one camera only.
Steve Shipcott says, blimey, we've had cassette tape, 78s, and now Monty Python references. What next? P.S. I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, nobody expects the
cheese shop sketch.
Nobody expects the cheese shop sketch.
Our comfy chair.
Our 2 weapons of fear and surprise. Oh, and an almost fanatical devotion. Our 3 weapons.
Three!
Almost on cue, I'm told it's time for a change. As soon as I lapse into Monty Python sketches with Tony, I'm always shutting off.
I think you're still on. I think I'm departing.
Okay, yeah.
I'm shifting sideways to summarising, not tweet reading.
Nestle, you'll be able to attend to your groceries now, Nestle, which I gather was a talking point this morning.
Well, I'm going to change my shirt because I'm sweating like a sweating thing here.
Yes, no,
it's. I will see you all back after lunch.
Thanks very much, Nestle. Yeah, and a few words from Tony, and then Knackle will take over the ball by ball.
Well, I'll keep reading tweets. 127 for 5, of course, England. A beautiful picture of sunset sent to us by Tai Ping Shan. Spill it, Tony. Keep the fun. Keep up the fun. Okay, well, Ratchet Dave, sorry, I have spilt it now. It was the David Warner. It was the David Warner.
Yeah, tell us again the answer, Tony, in case people missed that.
So Rabbit Air says, so that crucial first hour was a damp squib. Is crucial second hour a thing? Well, they all become crucial when you're 199 runs behind, which England are at the moment, and running out of wickets fast. Chris Dealey's calling it the crucial next hour. Mog says, both of them asked Beyonce on a date, but she laughed at them, and they had to go to the dance with Rihanna instead. Not that one either, Mog. No, we've come up with the answer. Stevie Warner. Hombre Nuevo says, hello, Gorillas. Hello to you. Has there ever been a jingle for Maiden Overs? There are a lot of apt songs out there. Yes, we did. Knackle,
we do indeed have some maidens, and in honour of the fact that Mohammed Abbas bowled his spell before drinks of 7 overs, 6 maidens, none for 1. Let's have this.
Beware the demon bowler. He's crafty and deceitful, and he'll try to LBW and bowl a maiden over.
We had time for all that because Chris Wokes, rather than ducking the Naseem bouncer, ducked into the Naseem Shah bouncer and got hit hard on the top of the head at the end of the last over, and multiple new helmets were brought out to him. Ben Folkes was carrying 2 whole kit bags out with him, dragging them behind him, so I'm not quite sure what that was all about, but Chris Wokes is fine. He's been assessed. You're listening to For Concussion, as you can't trifle with these things, particularly not at 90 miles an hour. You're listening to Guerrilla Cricket's coverage of Pakistan's Tour of England 2020. You join us with 40 minutes to go to lunch on day 3 of the first test. Pakistan won the toss and elected to bat, made 326, a magnificent 151 by Shah Masood, 69 for Babar Azam, and 45 for Shadab Khan. England are 127 for 5. They look just to be breaking the shackles this morning of Abbas and Shaheen and Naseem, but Naseem Shah picked up Ollie Pope, a very good catch low at gully by Shadab Khan. We do have a change at the James Anderson end. The big tall left armour has changed ends, and his first ball is defended by Josh Butler. Back to said big tall left armour. There is no run, but there is a jingle.
It's always time for Shaheen Afridi.
No, not that other guy, that Shaheen.
It's So it's time for Shaheen Afridi. Shaheen Afridi, Shaheen Afridi.
In comes Shaheen Shah Afridi, Buffon flapping in the breeze, and Butler plays a little bit handsily in front of him, but times it well enough. Fawad Alam is on as a sub-fielder and races towards this back to the mid-on boundary and fields with help from Azhar Ali at mid off the captain. Butler comes through for 2, moves to 25.
Rather unkindly described, I recall, in the previous Pakistan series that we covered as having a face a bit like the sorting hat from Harry Potter.
Who's that?
Afridi.
Shaheen Shah Afridi?
Yes.
That's a little
I think
harsh,
it's the way he scrunches his face up as he's bowling.
Yeah. Linux Leah, yes, I'll come back to that after this ball as he's in, comes Shaheen too wide and left alone outside of stump. Another good take from Mohammad Rizwan, diving in front of Babar Azam at first slip, and there is no run. Linux Leah described him yesterday as having resting creep face. A little bit gloomy at Old Trafford, the lights are on. We do expect that cloud to burn off, and we mean burn off literally. It is scorchio across England today. Particularly down here in the south, and we expect it to be bright, gorgeous sunshine later this evening. Still just the 2 slips in the gully for Shaheen to Butler. That's again too wide across our stump, and that's an even better take from Mohammad Rizwan, one-handed, diving across in front of second slip, and that has been signalled a wide. Trying for what's he doing here, Shaheen? Is he trying for the magic ball that comes in from a mile outside off stump? He's got his line completely wrong in this over.
Yeah, maybe just trying a little bit too hard, perhaps.
What'll he come back with this time? This is tighter to off stump, but Butler leaves on length through to the keeper. There is no one. Rizwan smiles at Mohammad at Shaheen Shah Afridi as if to say, you didn't make me dive that time.
It is an exciting prospect, these three, the combination of Shaheen Shah Afridi, Mohammad Abbas and Naseem Shah. You just feel that they keep turning out these fantastic bowlers, don't they, in Pakistan, quick bowlers. A lot of it to do, I understand, with the playing of tape ball. I'll come on to that thought in a minute.
That's been the case for a very long time, going back to Sarfraz Nawaz and Imran Khan in the 70s and 80s, the birth of reverse swing. Back of a length from Shaheen, left alone by Butler, through to the keeper. There is no run. What I like about this attack is that they're all so different, and they all came up in different ways. Mohammad Abbas really learnt his craft in first-class cricket. I heard Josie Oak talking about why didn't they pick him at 22, 23. I mean, he's not extreme pace, so it perhaps doesn't impress as much at a younger age, but he's really honed his craft in first-class cricket, both in Pakistan and here in England with Leicestershire, and he's absolutely brilliant. And then you've got Shaheen, the big tall left armour, and then Naseem Shah, the right armour, slingy and even faster. Beauty from Shaheen Shah Afridi. And Butler actually wasn't in too much trouble just playing inside the line, but such was the zip off the wicket that Mohammad Rizwan was knocked bodily over by it. He's been put through his paces, Rizwan, by these Pakistan fast bowlers, but he's doing pretty well. England 130 for 5, still trail by 196.
Yes,
sorry,
a few tweets here, Tony. Neil's been in touch today. 19 runs in an hour. This is cricket. And Leo Wicked Witch says that piece of keeping by Rizvan should put the final nail in the coffin of Sarfraz' Test career. A lot of people still trying to guess Tony's teaser, but we've guessed the answer to that. So here's Dave's teaser coming up. I've got one for you, Tony Knackle.
3 slips in the gully for Chris Wokes, new to the crease, having just been hit on the head by Naseem Shah, and Wokes had absolutely no idea about that. Wokes, who has such a good defensive technique normally, was backing away to leg as he tried to play that. It swung viciously past the outside edge. There is no run. Chris Wokes is really discomforted by the pace and movement and hostility of Naseem Shah.
Can I give you my teaser, Knackle?
Sure.
What is the connection? Here's Dave's teaser. What is the connection between the Pakistan opener Shan Masood and the ex-England captain, now Sky commentator, Nasser Hussain? What's the connection, please?
Interesting.
Thank you.
Abid Ali is
Essex
going
in some capacity.
Abid Ali is going in as a short leg, with Wokes having been hit on the head. interesting to see where they've taken him from. And I know Shah Massoud was.
You know the answer, Knuckle.
I don't know the answer.
Don't give it away.
I don't know the answer.
Let's get the Twitterati engaged.
I don't know the answer. I know a few biographical details.
Yes,
Abid Ali
sure.
is quite deep at short leg. That's a good shot from Chris Wokes, though. Gets on the front foot and punches this nicely through the vacant cover region. I think the man himself, Shah Massoud, has a long chase from cover. No, it's Azhar Ali, the skipper, racing towards the cover boundary from wideish mid-off. They come through for 3. Wokes to 3, Butler to 25. Will be on strike. That was a nice shot from Chris Wokes, having been hit on the head and then beaten outside off stump.
Chris TB says that describing Nasser as Shah as 17 does a good job of illustrating his youth, but describing him as being born in 2003 makes him seem like an absolute infant.
Absolutely. In comes the man born in 2003, Naseem Shah, over the wicket, and this one doesn't move as much. And Butler, who's been out there for 86 balls now, blocks this into the offside, and there is no run.
Do we think that Butler is up for a big one here, or do you think he could be out any minute?
Either are possible, David.
Well, I know. I'm asking your view, Tony.
Either or neither, possibly. I mean, he's growing into his innings in terms of his footwork and in terms of his confidence in defence, but there's plenty happening off the seam and in the air with these 3, and then you've still got Yasir Shah and Shadab Khan to bowl. Full outside off stump. Butler throws his hands at this, a little bit aerial, but there's no one at orthodox point, and Butler picks up 4.
Did Knuckle just say seaman in the air?
Very good. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty happening. I'm not sure it's quite a pitch where there's a ball with your name on it, as it were, but there's plenty happening. Butler is certainly looking for a long innings, if not necessarily a big one.
Yeah, well, this was the conversation we were having this morning, Knuckle, which was, you know, if he gets England close to Pakistan's score, even if he's not the primary run scorer, but runs are scored around him and he's cemented it all together, then that still counts for an awful lot.
Absolutely. Butler's made useful contributions to England, although they have been diminishing in the last year and a bit. This is outside off stump and taken by Rizwan above his toes. There is no run. I think he's batted quite well in this summer, but his keeping is looking iffy. Having been quite good for a year or so, it was starting to creak, and you can afford that if you're averaging in the mid-40s, but Butler isn't. Here comes Naseem Shah, last ball of the over. He's got significant outswing to the right-hander. This one doesn't swing, and Butler plays it back to the bowler. There is no run. Naseem does a little stare at Jos Butler and then rather ruins it by dropping the ball. There is no run. End of the over end of the 47th. England 137 for 5.
Yes. It's Dan Cricket thinks that I imagine Mohammed Abbas is Vernon Philander-esque in his approach. Steve Kellett says we're diddly doomed, and Steve Pettifer says we've avoided the follow-on. What is this nonsense? Ralph the Wonder Llama is not impressed. You think Test cricket doesn't do itself any favours sometimes, does it? You mean the slow scoring rate? Josie Oak says Knuckle is looking flowery.
Thank you.
Indeed. Steve Callett, lap of honour for avoiding the follow-on by any chance. And Jay Grover's not impressed with your teaser, Tony. He thinks that it's too tenuous. Well, what about mine? What's the connection between Shan Massoud and Nasser Hussain? What's the connection between Shan Massoud and Nasser Hussain?
Seen a couple of tweets come in that might be on the right line, but I'm not going to spill the beans. The man's coming out of cover to reinforce the slip cordon for Shaheen Shah Afridi. We've got 3 slips in the gully, backward point. Mid-off, almost a short extra cover, in fact, a shortish mid-wicket as well, and a mid-on, presumably a long leg. Shaheen left arm over the wicket from the James Anderson end. Gets this one to swing in sharply to Chris Wokes. Surely that's going down leg and too high. Shaheen was interested. Richard Illingworth is not. There is no run. Significant swing from Shaheen Shah Afridi, pretty much for the first time today. We saw him swing the ball all over the place last night. With that left arm angle. Azhar Ali is not interested in the review, by the way, and quite rightly so. Probably might have pitched outside leg, certainly missing leg. talked though, David, about Chris Woakes' loss of form with the bat, and we've seen this with Pat Cummins has really roughed him up in the last couple of Ashes tours, and he looks uncomfortable against high pace.
Yes, indeed.
What do we do with the high pace and the swing and height and angle of Shaheen Shah? Freebie, he'll try and drive this through cover. He chokes up on it, comes off the inside part of the bat, but straight and beats mid-on, and mid-on Mohammad Abbas does a really rather comedic bit of fielding, trips over his own feet, trips over the boundary rope, and somehow, from a ball that Chris Woakes horribly mistimed, he picked up 4. Yeah, that wasn't meant to go between the bowler and the non-striker's stumps, and oh dear, Mohammad Abbas. It's just as well he's a brilliant bowler.
So, yeah,
oh, hello! A short, sharp shower out of nowhere has interrupted play, and we're going off for a summer shower that absolutely no one saw coming. England 141 for 5 after 47.2 overs. Where has this come from?
A big heat wave, and it's still not raining in Lancashire. Yeah, so they're just going off the pitch. Just to say that we've had a few guesses as to the connection between Shan Masood and Nasser Hussain. Martin Lawrence says, I'm guessing they were both born in India. That's not the correct answer. Chris TB has had one incorrect answer and one has actually got it right. His first answer was both born in a country other than the one they represented. In fact, Hussain in India, Masood in Kuwait. That's correct, but it's not the answer I was looking for. Jay said they both played cricket, according to Tony's logic. They've got the same.
I think mine was a little bit more centred around one cricketer.
Exactly. But Chris TB has got it right. I'm gonna spill the beans. They both not only just attended Durham University, they both represented Durham University at cricket.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. Shah Masood did a lot of his schooling in England and then university, and played a lot of club cricket over here. He's from quite a well-off family. His dad works for a bank, which is why he was in Kuwait for a while, and then in England. Played for the Durham MCC. He played a first-class game against the usual season curtain raiser for the students against the local first-class side. He played against a Durham attack that included Chris Rushworth and Graham Onions.
Annie's been in touch. Good morning, Annie. This is tense. Come on, Butler, my red ball batter. The thoughts of Somerset and indeed Lancashire are with Joss Butler, who's going to go back into the pavilion for a little break because of the rain shower, and having kept his wicket intact. And in fact, he's on 29 not out. Mock says, give me Folkes or give me death. That's a choice. You want runs, get Root to carry some weight. Mock, you don't sound too happy with the England captain. Ralph the Wonder Llama says, was it cowardly of me to pray for rain? Ralph, are you responsible for the rain break? And Colin Rosenthal says, are they both international cricketers in relation to the teaser, which has now been solved? They're both at Durham University and represented Durham University. Little rain break here, and I think I'm finished those tweets. Thank you very much for your participation, one and all.
Should say the GPL is about 20 minutes from closing. We've had we've had 6 entries. Ombre Nuevo on 287. Everyone's gone pretty high. Nestle Boy on 326, on 342, 352, 386 and 377. Those are all very high. I think probably, but I'm not going to lead you too much. Go to gorillacricket.com/competition, follow the on-screen instructions, and guess how many runs you think will be scored in the day's play. You've got until lunch to do so, which is in 21 minutes time. You pay £1 per guess. You can have as many guesses as you like, and whatever you guess goes in the pot. If you are bang on, no nearest the ball, you have to be bang on, you win what's in the pot, which started today at 46 pounds. So you will win yourself a healthy chunk of money.
And we've got
/competition.
And we've got some great entertainment at lunchtime. Tony, you're going to tell us about your lunchtime interview today, which may be they may take an early lunch, of course. So stay tuned, Gorillas.
Yes, indeed. Stay tuned to my guest, who I've just emailed. Yes, the book. I'm going to hold it up to the camera. I don't know if you'll be able to see it.
No, we now have Colin Croft's floating head.
It's Lawrence Rose, but yes. It is a book, The Unforgiven, Mercenaries or Missionaries. It's the story of the West Indians who went on the rebel tours to South Africa in the early 80s. It's a deeply moving, fantastically researched book. Some of the attitudes, the recriminations, and ultimately, in a couple of cases at least, very tragic outcomes of the players that took part are expertly researched by my guest, who is going to be Ashley Ray, the author and the man who wrote the book.
And you tracked him down to Australia, Tony, is that right?
Yes. We will be joining us from Australia. He is, of course, geared up to join us at 1. Hence the email that I just sent to him, which I hope he gets, which was something along the lines of lunch could be early and or late, stay tuned, which I think is about as much as we know at the moment.
The man on the ground, George DeBell, says that it's already stopped.
The rain or lunch?
The rain.
The rain. Yeah, one would hope so. Although we are here, of course, in the liberal elite south, assuming that just because we're looking out at the weather at the unbelievable blue sky, that it's therefore going to be that in Manchester, which is as they say, never assume it will make an ass out of you and me. And so yes, but even then I was surprised that it did rain. So that's my lunchtime guest. I have noticed something else actually on Hot Mic. I don't know if this is new news, but certainly we've been receiving tweets and messages this morning. At $128 donation from Taiping Shan.
Good Lord.
Oh, wonderful.
That is Hong Kong. That is Hong Kong dollars, but don't say it like that, because that is still incredibly generous, and we are extremely grateful. It just the Hot Mic just assumes everything is a US dollar, even when it's not. We are equally grateful, and thank you so much for that. A few other messages as well. Neil was saying the reason we don't get the Walking on Sunshine jingle, we're talking to Chris Wokes, is it because he's no longer recently taken 9?
Yeah, the jingle's somewhat out of date.
But then so is his Instagram and Twitter one.
Yeah, although that isn't out of date. Isn't as out of date, rather.
Wait, not on an Ashes tour.
No, but the other one's even older. Anyway, the players are back at the boundary's edge, and the umpires, the interchangeable Richards, are walking back out, so we will presumably have a fairly swift resumption.
Tony, can you do the rest of those messages on Hot Mic?
I can, David. I just unhot mic'd myself.
Oh, okay.
Well, but I can. Jimmy C.
Yeah.
Jimmy C. Looking forward to an interesting day listening from Perth, Australia, on platform 9 3/4. Oh, Harry, was that the mention of the face like a sorting hat? But welcome to you, Jimmy C. Robert saying, hi, Gorillas. Greetings from sunny Slovakia. Brilliant job you are doing. Well, thank you very much indeed for that. We're delighted to have you with us. And Chris Harris was from Alberta, up in a meadow in Jasper, Alberta, saying it's 4:20 in the morning when he sent it. And good morning. Well, a very good morning to you. Oh, there's some Canadian cricket today.
Yes. Just while you're looking for that, Tony, can I just welcome a new listener, another author, actually, Colin Babb, who is a West Indian living in the UK, journalist, established journalist in the Caribbean, tuning in as a new listener to Ball by Ball coverage of England, Pakistan and guerrilla cricket, thoroughly enjoying their refreshing, original and mildly eccentric approach to cricket coverage and commentary. I like that, Colin, and I should give you a plug for your wonderful new book on the 1973 tour, West Indies tour of England, and what it meant to you as a youngster in growing up in London. The Colin Babb 1973. It's a wonderful book. Hope to talk to Colin during the next Test match. Actually, another good cricket book, and we've been really well served by good reading material during this break in cricket transmission.
Yes, haven't we, just?
Yes, indeed. Keeping us all through the going through the long cricketless months. Well, they are back out there, and Shaheen Shah Afridi will continue the remaining 4 balls of this over, bowling to just Butler, who's on 29 not out off 89 balls, 2 slips in the gully, backward point, cover mid off, mid on, mid wicket and long leg. Butler taking plenty of time to Butler and Wokes rather just taking a little bit of time to do some gardening and remove some bits from the pitch that aren't actually there.
Dave Sirrah says hopefully Misbah's thrown on a 10th fielder just to see if anyone's paying attention.
In fact, I tell a lie. It's Chris Wokes facing up on 7 off 7 deliveries. Make that 8 off 8 deliveries. And might come back for 2. Yeah, 9. So Chris Wilkes will move to play that with very soft hands down past the gully region. Shah Massoud races towards the gully region and fields. They come through 4-2. Nicely played by Wilkes, but under his eyes.
Do you remember anything about that 1973 West Indies tour to England, Tony?
I'm just trying to now. Would it have been the start of the sort of the fearsome foursome of fast bowlers, or was it one series before that?
In comes Shaheen, 4th ball over the over, left alone outside off stump, dies and goes on the second bounce through to Mohammad Rizwan, who's been very impressive behind the stumps.
Having a look as we speak.
Sort of
David,
76 was
the
famous Michael Holding tour with the dry pitches and all that. It was after the 75 tour of Australia where they got dismantled, wasn't it? That Brian Lloyd went to the 4-man pace battery. David, as a West Indian cricket lover and historian, you might be able to back me up on that, as Shaheen is in full delivery outside off stump and a crashing cover drive by Chris Wilkes. Full follow through and races away to the cover boundary for 4. Lovely shot by Chris Wilkes.
Now, actually, I will try and take you through that 73 team, because a number of members of it did go on to be the Rebels we will be discussing at lunchtime.
Yeah,
so
there is a
connection. Be more timely. So there's a huge connection. So maybe at the end of this over, let me just walk you through that team, and I'll pick out a couple of interesting ones.
I think he still had the great Cigarfield.
In comes Shaheen, last ball of this slightly interrupted over, straighter this time, swinging onto leg stump, and Wilkes blocks up to the bowler, up to mid-on rather. There is no run. England won 47 for 5. We now take you back to 1973.
Under the captaincy of Rowan Canai, Lance Gibbs was vice-captain. Keith Boyce, fantastic servant of Essex, of course. Steve Camacho, Maurice Foster, Roy Fredericks, Van Bernholder, Ishan Ali, Bernard Julian, great servant of Kent, but also a rebel tourist. Alvin Kalicharan, I think a rebel tourist. Clive Lloyd, David Murray, one of the most tragic, although still very much alive, but you'll hear a lot of his personal story, I think, at lunchtime when we talk to Ashley. Derek Murray, so you had those were the 2 wicket keepers, not related, even though names suggest they might be. Lawrence Rowe, who of course captained that rebel team, Grayson Shillingford, and Equimendo Willett.
I mean, Gary Sobers was on that tour as well, amazing enough, batted at number 7.
We do have a change of bowling. We'll have a leg spin for the first time today, replacing Nazim Shah at the Brian Statham end. It is this man.
Oh, a pet! Here comes a leg spin now. He's got a googly to admire. Fucking hell, it's Saoirse.
1 for 36 off his 7, dismissed the England captain Joe Root, who tried to cut a ball that wasn't there to cut in a nicely taken catch by Mohammad Rizwan. His first ball of this over, his 8th, the 49th of the innings, is fullish outside off stump, and Butler punches with an open face out to the deep cover point fielder, and they come through for a single. Chris Wilkes now facing up to Yasir Shah.
Morgan Hauptfleisch has been in touch and says on Twitter, and says, thank goodness for your commentary, keeping me calm as I'm immobile with a busted foot after an accident with a giraffe.
Oh my.
Greetings from Windhoek, friends. Morgan, tell us more.
I think you were lucky to get away with a busted foot if you had an encounter with a giraffe.
Is it just a tall story and you need to wind your neck in?
You want to stick your neck out and say it's a tall story?
That was a better way of phrasing it, David. Thank you.
Now had the same
I toss them up. I give you the turds, you polish them.
Just knock them in.
Not many close fielders for Yasir Shah, just the one slip in place. Turn and bounce, but too short, and Wilkes punches this to short mid-wicket, and there is no run.
That would be a hell of a job, turd polisher in chief. Can you imagine?
No.
The keeper of the royal.
Obviously, don't want to.
The keeper of the royal stool. In comes Yasir, wider on the crease. Doesn't really turn, and cut by Chris Wilkes. Nicely fielded that backward point. There is no run. Tony and Dave, are you a little bit surprised that Chris Wokes doesn't have a couple of men round the bat for company?
Definitely. If it's so short of runs, you put some more pressure on him.
Yeah, I see it. Always a smiley, effervescent fella, and he bounds with that energetic action of his. This is a little bit short and doesn't really bounce, and Wokes can rock onto the back foot and push it out to, I think that's Nassim fielding on the cover boundary. They come through for a single.
I know what you mean about his action. It's beautiful, isn't it? I mean, it's just all Tigger. It's Tigger bounce.
There's such energy and
approach.
Such energy and sort of not quite as arms and legs everywhere as Abdul Qadir, but there's a little bit of that. This is tossed up, good delivery from Yasser. A little bit of drift as well. Butler watchfully leaves it alone through to Rizwan. It did turn. Butler, a good player of spin, averages 50 against spin since coming back into the England team. You may remember we talked about it a few times yesterday. His twin 50s in Sri Lanka on very turning tracks. Last ball of the over from Yasser Shah. Back goes Josh Butler very quickly onto the back foot and punches out to Nassim on the cover boundary. 3 pretty easy runs off that over from Yasser Shah. England's 150 is up there, 150 for 5.
Yes, we're waiting for more information from Morgan Heitfleisch. We'd like to know more about your foot injury. Mike Sainsbury down in Devon is recuperating after serious illness, so wish you all the best, Mike, for your recovery, and I'm glad you're enjoying the coverage. And Russell Chapman sent us a really lovely picture of a cat shaking its head, which Hendo no doubt will enjoy. And hot off the press, Leah Wicket Witch says, "Do not ask me why it exists, it just does." Now, you're referring to a video which I haven't played, so I need to decipher
the video.
that.
The video is from the TV science show Mythbusters, and they are literally polishing a turd. In comes Shaheen, continuing this spell, full outside off stump, and dribbles through to Mohammad Rizwan, takes it on the second or third bounce, and doesn't even.
What was the myth they were trying to bust, I wonder?
Excellent piece of research,
You can't
Leah.
polish a turd.
Well, that's okay, perfect, yeah.
Excellent piece of research, Leah, I have to say. Above and beyond the Call of Duty.
Still just the 2 slips and a gully. It's Babar Azam at first slip, Asad Shafiq at second, and Shah Masood at backward at gully. Usually Sharaf Khan. Shaheen in again, not getting much life out of it, the pitch from the James Anderson. I think there is a difference in ends between the Statham and Anderson end, and from the Anderson end, Shaheen's balls outside off stump are just dying through to Mohammad Rizwan, and there is no run.
A couple of people on Quick Tracker. Oh, we should just say hi to Fahim Khan, saying hello to everyone and saying what a good lineup Pakistan has, which is true, of course.
Been really excited for this series. You look down the the batting lineup and you look at the bowlers. You look at some of the bowlers who aren't playing. Wahab Riyad is always exciting. Not always good, but always exciting. Imran Khan's taken some wickets, and Sahil Khan's taken wickets here. Round the wicket comes Shaheen Shah Afridi. The ball's full with that lovely flick of the wrist, but nicely played by Butler. Just stands up tall and punches it with the full face of the bat out to the cover boundary. 4 runs. Full half volley, very nicely played though by Butler, moves to 35.
Also just on Quick Tracker, Vishal Singh says it's a superb commentary. Thank you for all this live commentary. Well, thank you, Vishal Singh, for joining us.
Indeed, and if I can just give Dr. Dan a thank you for sending us a wonderful sketch of Just Butler scoring a 4 off Nassim Shah. That's on our Twitter feed if you want to have a look at that.
Really hard going this morning for Josh Butler. It took him a long time to get off the mark, and he had to face some very probing bowling from Mohammad Abbas in particular, but he's starting to warm to his task. He's in behind this solidly enough and blocked into the covers. There is no run. What I particularly like about Butler with his defensive strokes is he plays the stroke and then doesn't look up to see where the ball is going. He plays the stroke a little bit like a golfer hitting a really good shot who thinks, right, that's out of the middle, don't need to see where it's going, carry on.
Taiping Shan, thanks for giving me a bit of lighting advice. You suggested I put the front light on and turn the back light off, which I've done, so thanks very much for that. Taiping Shan, thank you for your lovely donation.
I'll be honest, I'm not sure it made that much of a difference. Full and swinging into the left-hander and the right-hander rather, and clipped nicely by Butler. They'll come through for 2. They will come through for 2 very rapidly. These two are quick between the wickets. Our lunchtime guest Ashley Gray is in the house slightly early, but because we were we were not we were caught unawares by that rain break.
Peter Jones says, "Hi guys, just landed in Amsterdam. Looking forward to soaking up some local culture." Oh yes, whilst listening to England battle their way to parity. Nice to hear from you, Peter. And just to say, the book by Colin Babb that we referred to before is called 1973 and Me by Colin Babb. It's the story of the England versus West Indies Test series and a memorable childhood year as a young schoolboy born into a Caribbean family in 1970s Britain.
Very good. Shaheen is in. Love the work that he does with the wrist. Just very loose wrist and flicking the wrists at the last second to make sure that the ball swings. It does swing, but from too wide outside off stump, left by Butler through to the keeper. There is no run. 156 for 5.
Armchair Cricket Podcast says, a real joy to watch Naseem in action. He can make even the most lifeless pitch come alive with his zip off the pitch and pace. The ball to get Pope was an absolute snorter and got an instinctive reaction from the batter, who was looking to evade it rather than leave it. Hello to Wes Spearman. Hello Wes, how are you? Guerrilla contributor. But Tony, tell us a bit more. Tee us up for lunchtime, because we've got fantastic story at lunchtime. And Tony, over to you.
In comes Yasir, starting his second over of the day, and shortish outside off stump, and Wokes punches out to the cover sweeper. There is no run. Yasir's been a little bit too short and too wide in this mini spell thus far. We're seeing that he's releasing the ball from a little bit wider on the crease than he was yesterday. Perhaps that's why, just not getting the drift that he was getting. He was can't remember which end he was bowling from yesterday. He's bowling from the Statham end today. Perhaps the cross breeze will help that drift. That's too full, and Butler with the open face just jabs down on it, and it's another single out to Naseem Shah, who is doing all the fielding of Yasir.
Yes, I'll very quickly tell you. My guest today is going to be none other than Ashley Gray, author of The Unforgiven, Mercenaries or Missionaries, a fascinating exploration into the rebel South African tours by West Indies players.
Fuller from Yasir and straighter, a little bit of drift as well, but too full, and what Wokes blocks what was in truth a half volley up to mid-on. There is no run. Just 3 minutes till lunch, 3 minutes more to enter the GPL as
really
well.
Looking forward to that. That's been one of the most talked about cricket books of recent times. Really
very much so.
Full outside off stump, and Wokes drives, takes a nasty bounce off the practice wicket, but Babar Azam at short cover fields very well. Our pal Mashel on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, I believe, interviewed Ashley and spoke very highly of the book. That's a beauty from Yasir. Turns and bounces sharply. That's a brilliant take from Mohammad Rizwan as well. Above his shoulder, almost at head height. Fizzing leg break, which ripped and dipped. It was nicely played by Chris Wokes, or not played as it were, but super take from Mohammad Rizwan. Who's really impressed up to the stumps off both Abbas and Yasir, and back to the stumps as well, with the ball moving all over the place. This is blocked by Chris Wokes out to point. There is no run. Yasir not quite on the money in this 2-over spell we've seen thus far. He's 1 for 41 off his 9. England 158 for 5 after 51 overs. Trail by 168. We'll get one more over in after of this morning's session, which has been fascinating. And then at lunch, Tony will be chatting to Ashley Gray about the book The Unforgiven.
Daniel Keevy says, what's there to say? The giraffe was a poor driver. That's referring to Morgan Upledge, who does actually give us the real story, which is the old girl got up a bit groggy after a dart in the backside to attach a satellite tracker. Wildlife research. Morgan is a wildlife scientist and conservationist. Kai Ping Shan has given us a very interesting quote from Mike Selvey about Jofra, which I'll come back to.
They say never work with animals. Shaheen in back of a length and punched by Butler to Abid Ali at mid-wicket.
I've got to be honest, if someone fired a dart into my backside to try and insert a satellite, I think I might lash out a fair bit.
Mike Selvey apparently quotes Jofra Archer as saying this pitch is not one where you will bend your back. Of course, Naseem's delivery to Pope knocks that sentiment into a cocked hat.
Hold that thought. Shaheen Shah Afridi has bowled another no ball.
Over the line! Huh? I'm sorry, Smokey. You were over the line. That's a foul.
Fourth no ball Shaheen Shah Afridi has bowled in this innings. Full delivery and punched by Butler. A good sliding stop from the man at mid-off Azhar Ali, and there is no run. Might be a little bit of work for Waqar Younis to do in the interval with the front foot, the big front foot of Shaheen Shah Afridi.
Yes, indeed. It's just striving that little bit too hard for something before lunch. That 6th wicket would count. Well, that 6th wicket would.
I'm striving
Pakistan
for
firmly on top
aperitif.
anyway. What would it be, David?
Two
That's what
slips
I
and a
think we
gully.
want to know.
Shaheen in full outside off stump and left by Butler through to the keeper. There is no run. Who's brought up his Cowan ton, or his dentury, as some people call it on English cricket Twitter. His 100 balls faced.
I can see with
now.
a Campari
Sorry,
lemonade, David.
38 now off 102.
I do like a vermouth. It's true. And a Campari and lemonade would be nice, but so much more of a long drink than the traditional aperitif of a sherry.
Yeah, Campari and soda goes down well. That was a cutter from Shaheen Shah Afridi. He does have a good off cutter to the or leg cutter, I guess, to the right-hander to go with the ball that he brings back in to the right-hander. This one does neither and just carries on going outside off stump. Shaheen testing Butler's patience outside off stump, and thus far Butler is proving equal to the task. Leaves it alone through to the keeper. There is no run. It's another cutter, in fact, from Shaheen, who bowls that cutter with good disguise, running his finger across the ball. 3 balls left until lunch, and as David was saying, I think if England can get through these last 3 balls with only 1 wicket lost, they'll be reasonably happy with their morning's work, despite the slow scoring rate, or perhaps because of the slow scoring rate. That is too wide outside off stump, and Butler leaves. Good diving stop again by Mohammad Rizwan, who has been put through his paces. Takes that in front of first and a half slip. There is no run.
I think Jos Butler will be very happy with the morning's work. He's batting like he's got a point to prove, and he's showing us that he can bat in a test match fashion. The lack of runs, I don't think, will concern him at all.
There shouldn't really be news. I think in 2018, only Virat Kohli batted 100 balls more times than Jos Butler did in Test cricket. So
interesting stat.
He isn't and has never been the thrasher that we think he is in Test cricket. Shaheen round the wicket trying to make Butler play, doesn't make Butler play, too wide, and there is no run. I think the perception and idea of Jos Butler sometimes overtakes the reality of him in many different ways.
What was that stat again, Knackle?
I believe it was the case that during 2018, when he was only Virat Kohli faced 100 balls more in Test cricket than Jos Butler did.
How interesting.
What were their respective runs made?
No, that's a fair point. That's absolutely a fair point. But Butler averaged 45 in 2018 with that. It's not too bad. Last ball of the over and last ball of the session. That was a bit of a waste of an over, really, from Shaheen Shah Afridi. He didn't really make Butler play at all through that session, and England will lunch on 159-5, trailing by 167. A hard-fought session for England and Pakistan. Pakistan plugged away really well in the first hour in particular, and just as England were looking to break the shackles, Ollie Pope was done by a lifter from Naseem Shah, which was very well caught by Shadab Khan at gully. Ollie Pope went for a well-made 62, but Jos Butler is still there, 38 not out off 106 balls. He's been joined by Chris Wokes, who looked shaky early on, but he's 15 not out off 19. And England, as I say, lunch 159-5, leading, trailing rather Pakistan by still a fair margin. But they'll be happy enough with their morning's work, Tony. And I'll get out of your way, and we can say hello to all the way from Australia to Ashley Gray.
Hello, how are you?
We are doing very well. England possibly not quite so well. Actually, I might ask you in a minute about how as an Aussie you feel about that. But first of all, just let me introduce you, of course. The Times Literary Supplement did describe The Unforgiven as a deeply humane book. Accused of pocketing blood money to support a regime that systematically discriminated against people of their own colour. The players who went, of course, were banned for life from playing the sport they loved. In many cases, they were shunned by their fellow countrymen. Few turned to drugs, some turned to God. Others found themselves begging on the streets and struggling with mental illness. And our guest today travelled to the Caribbean to find the story of those forgotten men in the book, The Unforgiven. Ashley, again, a huge welcome. Thank you for joining Guerrilla Cricket.
Thanks, Tony. It's an honour to be here.
Well, we're honoured to have you. We like having Aussies on the show. Yep. A few have survived, so you'll probably be okay. Tell us a little bit about yourself, first of all, before we get into the book. Tell us about you and how you actually came to write the book.
Sure. I think along with a lot of Australians going back to the 70s and 80s, the West Indies were always playing in Australia or against Australia. I mean, between 75 and 85, there was something like eight series, including Super Tests at World Series cricket level. And they became our de facto second side. I mean, they were very popular in Australia. Obviously, they beat us quite a lot as well. But they were our heroes too. So when we actually got a side together in the 90s that was capable of beating the West Indies, it became something of a rite of passage for young males to travel to the Caribbean and follow the Australian side around. So there was 91, there was 95, 99 and 2003. Well, I got there in 2003 and I happened to be doing some reporting at the time for a magazine called Inside Cricket. And it was actually the last 5 or 4 Test match series against the West Indies that Australia had played. And kind of sad in a way, but in Jamaica at Sabina Park, I got word from a taxi driver that there was a guy called Richard Austin, who I remembered from World Series cricket when he played in Australia. And he was, the taxi driver told me that he could be found on the street begging. And I was like, wow, this wouldn't happen in Australia or England or New Zealand. And he took me to the place in the middle of Kingston. This is an area called Crossroads. And there he was. He was actually sitting in the gutter. And he was supping from a plastic bottle of rum. A plastic Coke bottle of rum. And he was wanting money for cocaine. But from that point, he told me his story about how he had ended up there, and basically he put it all down to South Africa and the fact that he'd gone there with the rebel side in the early 80s and came back, and because the reaction was so fierce, especially in Jamaica, he was ostracized and he couldn't cope with the rejection, even though he had a lot of money. And in fact, even at this point, he still had a house he could have gone to, but he preferred the comfort of running with a gang and pretty much just living in the gutter. So it had done horrible things to him, and I knew then that there was a bigger story to this. And hence, some 17 years later, I finally got my act together and got the book out, But that's kind of the genesis of it, Tony.
So it had genuinely been sort of gestating for the best part of 17 years as a result of that. His actually is, one of the things that has struck me as I've read the book is it is a very human book. It's quite non-judgmental, and it really focuses in on the stories. Some of them are very tragic, and you kind of opened up with one of the more tragic. I mean, he died, of course, didn't he, in 2015, rather sadly. There was one story about Richard Austin that struck me as just absolutely, almost had me in tears, genuinely. His son came out of a restaurant and he was begging by chance outside that restaurant. So to actually, for your own child to discover you begging outside a restaurant, and then to a certain degree tried to help him out and look after him, because I think they'd been estranged, hadn't they? I mean, you would know more to the background than us, but it was such a heart-rending, just awful situation, really.
Yeah, it was, and further to that, just as a little footnote to that, Ricardo, that's his son's name, he's since gone missing in the last 18 months, which is very sad. And his mum, Molly Brigano Austin, who was obviously Richard's wife, would love any help in locating him. So if anyone knows of Ricardo's whereabouts, please get in contact with us.
Well, obviously an addiction to alcohol and an alcoholic father, and there were some sort of, shall we say, behavioural issues to do with a number of the players that went. I'd like to come back to that a little bit later, because there was I think, a sort of a deliberate strategy to handpick more vulnerable characters, and hopefully you can help us decide whether that's true. But one thing I wanted to sort of start off by asking you was, of course, the book is so much about the rights of black people, tackling head on the issues of apartheid, and the whole issue is built around whether missionaries or mercenaries, did they believe they were there to just make money for themselves, or they were actually revered when they went there. But let's start by saying the timing, therefore, of the book right now is incredible. Accident or design?
Complete accident. I mean, I had no idea for a start that COVID was going to happen, and no idea that the Black Lives Movement would take off at this point in time. So, but the good thing about that is that it has helped amplify the story of the rebels, and I think they deserve to have their stories told. They've lingered in the shadows of cricket history for too long, and this is their opportunity as well. So it's great that someone like Richard Austin, who only played 2 tests, is now getting, I mean, it's obviously too late in a way, but he's now getting the credit he deserves for a career that was sidelined by sort of political currents and sort of international politics in a way that he could never really have imagined. So I'm just happy that guys like him and Herbert Chang and David Murray and Everton Mattis, they're all getting their moment in the sun, and that's good.
There's a beautiful turn of phrase that I think you use in the Richard Austin chapter, although it could apply to others, I might point out. But you talk about earnest sympathy and benign neglect.
Sure.
That seems to sum up not just him, but many others, but particularly apposite to him. Tell him about what you were thinking when you sort of constructed that way of describing the way people felt about him.
Yeah, well, I think that it started off that because he was a guy from the ghetto. He was from Jonestown in Kingston. He was revered because he had made it out of the ghetto, and he was a rare example of someone who had done that and gone on and done good things with their life up until the rebel tours. And then, of course, after that, when he came back, he was ostracized and seen as an embodiment of everything that Jamaica wasn't about, and the West Indies wasn't about. But then later on, I think there was a feeling that these guys, and especially Richard in particular, had been treated too harshly, and that there was a sense of sympathy for what had happened to him, and a sense that perhaps people had gone too far. And I think that they tolerated him, and now that they saw him as a figure of both mirth and mercy. He was a guy that they felt now that they couldn't neglect him any longer, but they didn't want to get too close to him either, because it would mean that they were kind of tarnished. It was almost like he had a sort of leper status, and these rebels have leper status. If you got too close to them and tried to help them, you would be tarnished, and you would sort of catch their rebel disease almost. So I think that's kind of what I meant by that term.
That wasn't necessarily consistent across all of the Caribbean islands. I think you draw a comparison with, I'm going to have to look at my notes for a second, you draw a comparison with Derek Parry, who came from Nevis. So in Jamaica and Barbados, you had a hugely powerful resentment. Before they went, I know Michael Manley, the Jamaican Prime Minister, of course, was a hugely outspoken, even though he was a big fan of one or two of the players that went.
Absolutely, yeah.
So some islands have been a lot less forgiving and continue to be unforgiving, whereas somewhere like Nevis, smaller island perhaps, seem to re-embrace and happily welcome back its kind of star. Why do you think that would be?
Yeah, I think that in Nevis, there's because the population is only 12,000 or so. There has to be a sense of community there, and they were very proud of what Derek Parry had done. He was a pioneer, along with El Camino Willett, who was the first guy from Nevis to play for West Indies. So these guys, I mean, you're talking about a very tiny island, tiny pinprick of an island, you know, a speck of the old British Empire, and any sense of their own self autonomy or independence, or anyone who could help them assert their sense of independence in this new world was a hero to them, and I don't think therefore that they wanted to bring him down in the same way that perhaps that happened in Jamaica, where there was there'd been a history of slave rebellions. There'd been the Maroons who'd rebelled against British rule and gone to live in the mountains of inland Jamaica. And as you say, Michael Manley was so vehemently opposed to apartheid that he not only wanted sanctions against South Africa because of it, he also wanted an air, land and sea boycott. He wanted complete and utter sort of ostracism of South Africa. So yeah, there was just a greater history of anti-apartheid sentiment, I think, in somewhere like Jamaica. But in Barbados, at the government level, there was certainly hostility towards the rebels. And when Malcolm Marshall and Desmond Haynes said no to Ali Bakker's offer of many thousands of dollars to come to South Africa, they were greeted at the airport back in Barbados by a minister of government who told them that they'd made a great decision and they were welcomed back as heroes. Yet at the same time, there was a feeling in Barbados, which some people consider Barbados to be a little bit more flexible in its approach to money and matters of self-improvement, and there was a feeling there among the people, at least, that these guys had a right to make their own living, and that they only had a short amount of time to make that living in, so they should be allowed to go to South Africa to make their money.
Well, it's one way you could look at it, and it's massively oversimplistic.
Yep.
But the players were not at the core of the, let's say, the West Indies elite for whatever reason.
Yep.
Some you could argue were unfortunate in that, David Murray being one of them. But for whatever reasons, had sort of various behavioural issues that counted against him. But there were those who made money and were smart with it, and there were those who had made money and kind of rapidly lost it, and that somehow differentiates those in a way who have come out of it okay, and those who have been perhaps most scarred with it. Now, is that cause and effect, or are they simply related?
Yeah, it's interesting because guys like Murray and Austin, were into drugs big time before they went to South Africa. And David Murray told me that he used to get high before he went out to keep in the test match, and he said it gave him good focus during the day. So, some guys were perhaps always going to end up in some kind of turmoil in later life. But I think what South Africa did was it magnified any addictions or any sort of peccadillos that these guys had. You know, I mean, it turned them. It turned on a switch in their brains that I think wouldn't have been turned on otherwise, and they became, because of South Africa and not being able to cope with the mental side of being ostracised. It was a tipping point, I think.
Yeah, you bring that to life very, very well, actually, through, I think, the story of David Murray. Now, there's a number of tragic components to that, not one of which, not least of which, is who his dad is. So perhaps you want to just, you know, but the reason I picked in on him is the way you tell his story. He becomes almost it's the wrong words, but a tragicomic figure, particularly him and Collis King together as a kind of a double act. It's almost like, you know, Lear and the Fool. And every so often David Murray pops up with, albeit drunkenly, sort of a moment of you know, comic truth. Tell us a little bit about the interaction of those two, but also about the story of his father.
David doesn't share his father's name because he was born out of wedlock, and that's the way they do things in Barbados. And he grew up with his grandmother, as a lot of guys did. I mean, Derek Parry did as well, Albert Patmore, because a lot of parents moved to England, you know, because England was a promised land, and that's where there was money to be made. So they were brought up by their grandparents. And in David's case, it was said to me that his grandmother really doted upon him, and he was allowed to get away with lots of things that normal kids weren't able to get away with, you know. But he now is he's a very lovely guy, and when you meet him, you know, he lives a very minimalist existence. You know, he says peace a lot, and he says love a lot, and you know, he's a very caring kind of guy. But as soon as he touches alcohol or he has too much marijuana, you know, he just changes, and he becomes very difficult to deal with. And I think on the night with Collis, which was a fun night because Collis can handle his rum and David can't. David just became. He was sort of going in and out of almost of consciousness. You know, he'd come in with a very sort of cutting and insightful comment, and then he'd just sort of drift away, and you know, Collis would be spinning stories, and you know, it was kind of, as you say, kind of tragicomic, but. I think David was a very gifted keeper. Jeffrey Duzon said that he made him look like Dolly Parton behind the stumps. You know, that's how good David Murray was. He was just so damn silky. But you know, Duzon replaced him because on that 81-82 tour of Australia. Murray was once again caught out, you know, with his marijuana consumption, and you know, he was missing team meetings, and even though he took a record 9 catches in the first test against Australia in 1981-82, then by the third test his career was over. He never played again. So yeah, it was an amazing sort of fall from grace. But it's interesting. I went to the... Yeah, go on, sorry.
No, I was going to say, one of the things you talk about was him crying behind the stumps at one point. When he was fully aware that even as he was about... I think someone came up to him and said, I can't remember who it was, but, you know, after the first ball he faced in the tour, that's it, you won't play for the West Indies again. And he realised the kind of the enormity of it.
Yeah, Lawrence Rowe at first slip.
Yeah.
Because David's a very sensitive guy, and in any bunch of 20 men, you're going to get some guys who can handle the pressure and handle being called a traitor or whatever, but there are going to be other guys who it's going to get to, and it's going to be difficult for him, and David's a very sensitive character, and it, as I said, it tipped him over the edge. It tipped Herbert Chang over the edge. It tipped Richard Austin over the edge. It tipped Everton Mattis over the edge. But a guy like Colin Croft, he to him it was water off a duck's back. Although I have noticed, in recent times that he has expressed some contrition about going on the tours.
Well, you mentioned Lawrence Rowe, who was captain, wasn't he, and therefore quite, I think, instrumental in some of the Ali Bakker's recruitment. Perhaps we should talk as well a little bit about the curious split in South African cricket politics and the roles of the different unions. But let's stick on Lawrence Rowe for a moment. He was a man who did apologise and then kind of unapologised very quickly on a radio interview, and had an honour sort of pulled out from under his feet, all of which seems to suggest the kind of the schizophrenic almost viewpoint that somewhere like Barbados has about the in one way appreciating and applauding the cricketers in what they have done for the island and for the West Indies, at the same time not quite ever being able to forgive them. And this one incident, which I think you know which one I'm talking about, kind of brings that into focus a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. He said to me, and he still says to me, that that was the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to him in his life. We're talking about the naming of the Sabina Park Players Pavilion in his honour, which happened in 2011, and it seemed like he had been forgiven. This was an initiative of the JCA, the Jamaican Cricket Association, and Rowe, who had sort of fled to Miami after South Africa because of the opprobrium that he got when he came back to Jamaica, and he didn't feel safe there, and when he was in South Africa he was getting phone calls from his wife saying there were threats to kill him and to burn their house down, all this kind of stuff. I mean, a lot of guys got that. So anyway, he was in Miami. He flies back to Sabina Park for the ceremony. It's during a test match. He gives an apology which seems sincere, although ultimately it wasn't, because he didn't feel he had to apologise. He feels that going to South Africa was a good thing, and then it helped dismantle apartheid, and then it helped show white people in South Africa that black people could not only play at the same level as their white counterparts, but beat them as well. But anyway, yeah, he was there. He was there with his wife. It was probably the proudest moment in his life. The next day, he gave an interview, and he likened himself to Paul Bogle, who was a guy in the 19th century who rebelled against, or led a rebellion against British rule, and is a national Jamaican hero. And Lawrence said that maybe in 30, 40 years we'll be appreciated in the same way and seen as heroes rather than as...
well, I think that's interesting. Yeah, that's definitely something we want to come on with. In his case, did he not...
Yep.
I think he was already kind of a religious persuasion, but doesn't he have a sort of a church-backed cricket foundation that he now, even whilst living, I think, still in Miami, doesn't he, or somewhere in Florida?
Yes.
As one or two of the rebels do, not back in the West Indies, but he is giving something back to the game that gave him a lot.
Yes, and he has helped raise money for ex-players. In fact, they raised $6,000 for Patrick Patterson, who's not well and has mental health issues. And they were actually in the process of raising money for Richard Austin before he died. Lawrence, as I said, it really cut him up, the fact that his name was ultimately taken down from that pavilion, because what happened was that there was such an outcry from certain sectors of Jamaican society about him likening himself or the rebels to Paul Bogle, and ultimately the JCA was forced to take down his name from the Players Pavilion, and Lawrence went to pursue legal action, but it all got too complicated, and he just has to live with that now. But he feels that, as do a lot of people in Jamaica as well, because you got to remember that at the time in 1983, Tony, there was a poll taken, a Carl Stone poll taken for the Jamaica Gleaner newspaper, and that found that 68% of people were actually in favour of the rebels. It was almost like the man on the street was for them, but it was the church, the politicians, the media who were much more anti the tours. But the interesting thing about that stat, the 68% people who were in favour of the rebels going to South Africa, well, half of those apparently didn't even know what apartheid was. So,
it was one of the players was
undermines,
asked, wasn't he, what he felt about Nelson Mandela. You don't reveal who the player was, but the answer was something along the lines of, I don't know, we've never played against him.
Exactly.
So there was a sense of innocence is the wrong word. But what would be interesting is to dig a little bit at the sort of unusual circumstances that were happening. So you had, as I understand it, the South African Cricket Union, Dr. Ali Backer. When the players were recruited, as we said, they were primarily fringe or edge players who were more vulnerable to approach. They went on 2 tours. But interestingly, they got a phenomenal reception. They maybe had to almost sign a document, and you all know whether this was true or not, to almost be honorary white men in the country, to allow them to be treated differently. But they were revered everywhere they went. They were treated as heroes. White South African kids couldn't get enough of them. So there is some strength to their argument, regardless of the financials and where they sit on that they were poking one in the eye of a hideously corrupt government by actually being heroes to white kids, yet at the same time they were actually supporting, albeit in error, the apartheid government that was using the tour as a kind of a smoke and mirrors thing. Talk us through a little bit about that sort of, because it's quite hard to unpick in your brain, that sort of complex mix, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Look, there's no doubt that the West Indies side were revered when they went over, and they were hero worshipped. I mean, Collis King and Sylvester Clarke, probably the 2 dominant figures on the tours. Sylvester Clarke just about ended Barry Richards' career with his incredible performances, and that float ball that Richards could no longer keep out. But I think their athleticism, their joviality, their friendliness. This was seeing black people in a light that they hadn't seen them before. This is white South Africans. See, white South Africans were used to black people as miners or maids or servants or angry unionists. That they hadn't seen this side of what a black person or any person could be, really, and so it was a revelation to them. And Yeah, so I think there is some credibility in that idea that maybe white eyes in South Africa were opened by the West Indies rebel tours. But by the same token, black South Africa was pretty unanimous in not wanting them to tour there because they didn't want to have normal sport with any country in an abnormal society, because to them it was giving credence to that society. It was ramming home the fact that
it's the circus analogy, isn't it?
Yeah, you guys are getting off all right, but we're look at us and look what's happening to us every day. And I've got this magazine here, Tony. It's called Calypso Cavaliers. Can you see that?
Yep, yeah, I can indeed.
Yep, and it's a story of the 1983 tour, and there's a couple of press cuttings in it, and one of them's a letter writer to a Johannesburg newspaper. He suggests that the West Indian cricketers touring South Africa should be executed for the decision to visit the country.
That's
so
cool.
You had some very extreme views, and these were justifiably extreme because it almost felt like to some black people that it was almost like they were being mocked by having people of their own colour there.
He'd rather die than sell his soul. I might have paraphrased him wrongly, but the sympathy was there. The time's going to beat us soon, Ashley. That's the pressure of a lunchtime interview.
Yes.
I already want to have a stage 2 with you, if you'd be open to it, because I feel we've only begun to scratch the surface.
Indeed, haven't we? Yep.
I do want to just ask you one closing question.
Sure.
Which is, how do you feel ultimately that those rebel tourists will be judged? And having met them all and told their personal stories, how do you personally feel? So, what conclusion have you reached in your mind and heart, and what do you think history has reached?
I think one of the good things about the book is that history is now more understanding of them and why they went, and they're not just seen as this sort of this group of monster rebels. Every player had his own reason for going, and often those reasons were hard to argue against. I mean, it's easy for us in the first world to say, well, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that because you're going to aid and abet apartheid, but it's different when you come from such an impoverished region, and this is a ticket out of poverty. I think so Alison Rudd in the Times, she said that the book isn't so much about missionaries and mercenaries, it's also about lost souls, and I think what the tours did was it turned guys who had bright futures into these sort of ghostly figures, these lost souls who ended up in the margins of history, and I think that's kind of sad, and I feel like this is giving the guys justice. It's giving them justice on a human level, not so much by the decision they made, because I think in hindsight most people would think that the decision was wrong in terms of these guys coming from the West Indies, these guys going to a country that discriminated against people of their race. I think that's it's hard to justify that on a principled level, but
giving them that justice, I think, and that voice and that the explanation and the story around it has done them a huge justice. It's certainly done any reader a huge service, because it's a terrific book to read, Ashley. Thank you. I'm just going to remind people that Amazon, any good bookseller will have this book. It's been nominated.
Any bookseller in the UK,
India? Yes, no?
God, I hope so. I hope Amazon can get it there, but
Okay.
at this stage we don't
have been
have
asked.
any agent there. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's hope so, because we're speaking so. I'm going to hand over to, thank you again, Ashley. Going to hand over to Nigel Henderson to take us through the afternoon session, and this is nicely poised, Hendo.
Oh, it is, isn't it? It really is. 159 for 5, England. What an effort from Jos Butler with all the pressure that he's been under. He's 38 not out. He's been batting at a strike rate of about 35 this morning.